ang tunay na pangalan mo. Ang ganda mo kasi sa picture mo, gandang hinahanap ko. Ngunit sabi mo sa akin, hindi mo alam ang lahat sa'yo. Wala ka palang record ng birth certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot. Pwede bang malaman ko ang civil status mo? Baka may asawa ka na, type pa naman kita. Gusto kong isulat mo, ako lang talaga sa buhay mo. Ang tanging pangalan ko sa marriage certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung pa. Pwede bang malaman ko ang tunay na pangalan mo? Ang ganda mo kasi sa picture mo, gandang hinahanap ko. Ngunit sabi mo sa akin, hindi mo alam ang lahat sa'yo. Wala ka palang record ng birth certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot. Pwede bang malaman ko ang civil status mo? Baka may asawa ka na, type pa naman kita. Gusto mo, ako lang talaga sa buhay mo. Ang tanging pangalan ko sa marriage certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot. Sa wakas ay naging tayo, ikaw na ang forever ko. Pero sa sandaling mundo'y lisanin ko, death certificate ko'y iparehistro mo. Lahat ng bagay na meron ako ay ipapamana ko sa'yo. Importante sa kasi sa picture mo, gandang hinahanap ko. Ngunit sabi mo sa'kin, hindi mo alam ang lahat sa'yo. Wala ka palang record ng birth certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot. Pwede bang malaman ko ang civil status mo? Baka may asawa ka na. Type pa naman kita. Gusto kong isulat mo. Ako lang talaga sa buhay mo. Ang tanging pangalan ko sa marriage certificate mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot. Sa wakas ay naging tayo. Ikaw na ang forever ko. Pero sa sanggaling mundo'y lisanin ko. Death certificate ko'y iparehistro mo. Dahil lahat ng bagay na meron ako ay ipapamana ko sa'yo. Importante sa akin ang kinabukasan mo. Umpisahan mo na ang magparehistro. Importante talaga dahil buhay mo ito. Tanong mo sa kanila, alam nila kung paano. Sa civil registration masasagot.
Thank you very much. So I'm here to represent the Governor of Pampanga, Nanay Baby Pineda, and I'm here to verbalize her message to the Philippine Statistics Authority. So magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 4th National Convention on the Civil Registration and Vital Statistics. I extend my warm greetings to the dedicated men and women of the Philippine Statistics Authority, our local civil registrars, national and local government partners, development organizations, and our fellow advocates of responsive and inclusive CRVS systems. On behalf of the people of Pampanga, we are honored to host this important gathering. For us, civil registration is more than just a paperwork. It is the formal recognition of a person's existence and dignity. The birth certificate, the marriage certificate, the death certificate, these are not just documents. They are legal proofs that allow people to access healthcare, education, employment, and social protection. As a mother and as a public servant, I understand that many of our kababayans in far-flung communities, indigenous areas, and even urban poor settlements are still unregistered. This convention is timely and vital. It provides a chance for us to listen to one another, to innovate, and to design systems that ensure no Filipino is left behind. Lalo na ang mga bata, ang mga mahihirap, at ang mga nasa laylayan ng lipunan. To our civil registrars and PSA partners, your work may be often be quiet and unseen, but it is essential to nation building. Through accurate statistics and complete registration, you give voice to our people, guide policymakers, and empower communities. I encourage you to continue this mission with integrity and heart. Let us work together towards a future where every birth is counted, every death is documented with dignity, and every citizen can access their rights through a strong and inclusive CRVS system. Muli, welcome po sa Pampanga, and thank you for your unwavering service to our nation. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po kayong lahat. Thank you very much po, and a pleasant afternoon to each and every one of you.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Vincent Angelo Calara.
Now for our next speaker, we have someone from the PSA. So he completed his Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication, major in broadcast at the Centro Escolar University, and subsequently pursued his Juris Doctor in San Sebastian, where he became part of the top students in his batch. He then transferred to the University of the East, where he completed his law degree. Consequently, he became a member of the bar in 2019, and upon passing the bar, he became a tax associate lawyer at Punong Bayan and Araulio, where he handled tax and corporate engagements for both local and international companies.
He is also a part-time professor at IRIS Manila, where he teaches various law subjects. At present, he is the head of the Corporate Management and Support Unit of the Legal Service of the PSA, tasked to provide legal opinions and other various legal services both to PSA's internal and external stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome our presenter, Attorney Peter Irish R. De Leon. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am tasked to lecture or to discuss legal implications of foreign judgment in Philippine civil registration, a jurisprudence walkthrough. So the outline of my presentation is as follows. First, I'll be discussing registration of judicial or court decrees and decisions, the doctrine that no judicial notice of foreign judgments and laws in the Philippines, recognition of foreign judgments and its effects in civil registration, relevant jurisprudence on this matter, and the PSA Memorandum Circular 2025-06. So, question for all the LCRs. Do we have legal basis in registering court decrees or decisions of Philippine courts? Of course, I think we are very familiar of this provision, Article 407 of the Civil Code, which provides that acts, events, and as highlighted, judicial decrees concerning the civil status of persons shall be recorded in the civil register. So this is one of the legal bases why we register court decrees rendered by our courts, which affects, of course, civil status of persons. So, next slide. In the case of Corpus versus Santo Tomas, in a 2010 case, the Supreme Court explained that the law requires the entry in the civil registry of judicial decrees that produce legal consequences touching upon a person's legal capacity and status. So these are those affecting all his personal qualities and relations, more or less permanent in nature, which are not ordinarily terminable at his own will, such as his being legitimate or illegitimate, or his being married or not. Next slide. So having established that we have the legal basis to register decisions of Philippine courts, now the next question is, when does this decision of Philippine courts become registrable? So what triggers this? Does it become registrable the moment that the Philippine court rendered the decision? The answer is no. So here the answer is when the judgment or decision of Philippine courts becomes final and executory. So kailan nagiging final and executory ang judgment ng Philippine court? When the party fails to appeal within the period provided by law. So only then can registration be made of the decision of the courts. Okay? Kaya nabibigyan tayo ng certificate of finality, and I will discuss that later. It's one of the requirements for the registration of the decision before the local civil registry where the court is functioning. Next slide. Okay, so we have established that once the decision of a Philippine court becomes final and executory, then it becomes registrable. Now the question is, how about for decisions of foreign courts? Like courts of USA, of Japan, and other foreign countries. When these decisions become final, is it also automatic that they become registrable in the civil registry? Answer LCRs? No. Yeah. As provided here, in contrast with court decisions rendered by Philippine courts, foreign court decisions affecting civil status of persons must first be recognized in the Philippines before it can be given the effect of res judicata. Okay? Res judicata, this is a principle in law whereby it bars the relitigation of a case which has already been decided by a competent court. Okay? So as we can see, for Philippine courts, once it becomes final and executory, then registration follows as a course. However, for foreign decisions, even though it is already final and executory in the country where it was rendered, it still cannot be registered in the Philippines. There is a requirement that it must first be recognized by Philippine courts. So do we have a basis for this particular rule? Next slide. So case in point is the case of Corpus versus Santo Tomas. This is a 2010 case. So this case involves a mixed marriage. Corpus is a former Filipino. Then he became a Canadian through naturalization. He married a Filipina. And her name is Santo Tomas. Now, a few months after their marriage, Corpus learned of the infidelity of Santo Tomas. So he filed a divorce in Canada so that their marriage will be dissolved. So after 2 years, when the divorce was granted by the Canadian court, he went to the Philippines and registered the divorce decree before the City Civil Registrar of Pasig. And the Pasig City Civil Registrar actually registered the divorce decree. So next slide. So the issue in this case, one of the issues discussed by the Supreme Court, is whether or not it was proper for the City Civil Registrar of Pasig to register the foreign divorce decree in Corpus and Santo Tomas marriage certificate upon the mere presentation of the divorce decree. So I think everyone already knows the answer, right? So is it proper for the LCR of Pasig to register the same? Why? So the Supreme Court discussed this in detail. According to the Supreme Court, the recording is legally improper. But of course, the Supreme Court recognized first that the foreign divorce decree is really a judicial decree which is required to be registered under Act 3753. If you will check Section 1, Item E of Act 3753, it provides there that a civil register shall be established for the recording of civil status of persons. And paragraph E specifies divorces. So it is one of the judicial decrees that can be registered in the civil registry. However, according to the Supreme Court, even though this is registrable, the foreign decree, but while the law requires the entry of the divorce decree in the civil registry, the law and the submission of the decree does not, by themselves, ipso facto, next slide, authorize the decree's registration. The law, according to the Supreme Court, should be read in relation to the requirement of a judicial recognition of foreign judgment before it can be given the effect of res judicata. So, according to the Supreme Court, in the context of the present case, wala pa kasing recognition noong foreign judgment. No court in the Philippines has yet issued a decree recognizing the foreign judgment. So, therefore, it was improper for the local civil registrar of Pasig to register the decree. Okay? So, clear po tayo doon? Okay, next slide. What is the reason for this rule sa tingin natin? Bakit kaya ganon? Philippine court decisions registrable when they become final and executory, whereas foreign court decisions not automatically registrable. So this is the main reason for that. Our courts do not take judicial notice of foreign laws and judgments. So as explained by Justice Herrera, as a rule, no sovereign is bound to give effect within its jurisdiction or within its dominion to a judgment by a tribunal of another country. So this means that the foreign judgment and its authenticity must be proven as facts under our rules of evidence, together with the applicable national law of the alien. So, are we experts pagdating sa laws ng ibang bansa? We are not aware of that, and so as our courts. So that is the reason why the specific foreign judgment must first be recognized by Philippine courts to prove its validity. So once it is recognized, that is the time that it can be registered in the civil register. Malinaw po? Okay pa po ba tayo? Okay, thank you. Next slide. So, the Corpus versus Santo Tomas case was decided in 2010. So what was the stand of the NSO that time, or PSA, then NSO? Was there already the position of NSO that time? Yes, actually there is already, and this was cited in this case. So, way back 1982, the National Statistics Office, or the OCRG through the National Statistics Office, issued Circular Number 4 Series of 1982. So dito pa lang sinasabi na that the judgments or orders rendered by foreign courts must first be passed upon judicially by Philippine courts before or to prove its validity. So these are not self-executory. So dito pa lang sinasabi na. So this was cited in the Supreme Court case of Corpus versus Santo Tomas. So this was the stand of the PSA even way back 1982. And dito natin napatunayan na tama po yung position natin pagdating dito sa usapin na ito. Okay? Next slide. So, another question is the rule requiring the recognition of a foreign judgment before its registration in the civil registry applicable only sa foreign divorce decrees? Kasi as we all know, karamihan ng nare-receive natin for registration, especially kapag foreign decree, pertains to foreign divorce, di ba? So is the recognition requirement only applicable sa foreign divorce decree, such that other foreign decisions, such as nullity of marriage or adoption, hindi siya mag-apply? The answer is no. The requirement applies to all foreign decisions that affects the civil status of persons. And this is recognized under Rule 39, Section 48. Next slide, please. So under next slide. So here, I quoted Section 48 of Rule 39 of the revised 2019 Rules of Court, which provides that the effect of judgment or final order of a tribunal of a foreign country having jurisdiction to render the judgment or final order is as follows. So if the decision is against a person, the judgment or final order is a presumptive evidence of a right between the parties. Okay? So if there's a foreign decision, that decision as between the parties involved in that case is a mere presumptive evidence of a right. Okay? So we will discuss two more cases, and in these two cases, Section 48, Rule 39 is one of the bases of the Supreme Court in allowing the recognition of foreign judgments aside from a foreign divorce decree. Next slide. So another case in point is the case of Fujiki versus Marinay. So this also involves a mixed marriage. The husband is Fujiki, a Japanese national, and Marinay, a Filipina. During the subsistence of their marriage, Marinay contracted another marriage, or she contracted a second marriage with another Japanese national, which is Maekra. So, when the marriage of Maekra and Marinay turned sour, Fujiki helped Marinay to obtain a judgment to nullify the second marriage void on the ground of bigamy. Are we familiar of bigamy? It's contracting a second marriage during the subsistence of your first marriage. So tinulungan ni Fujiki si Marinay na makakuha ng decision sa Japanese court ng nullification ng pangalawang kasal on the ground of bigamy. Now, Fujiki, being the first husband, filed a petition with the regional trial court. Pinapa-recognize niya yung judgment ng Japanese court. Ang sabi ang sabi ng RTC, hindi yan pwede. Kasi hindi ka yung husband na minimension sa rule on absolute declaration of nullity of marriage. So this case is a little bit complicated, but I just cited this to show to you na ang recognition ng foreign judgments hindi lang siya limitado sa divorce decree. Kasama dyan yung mga nullity of marriage and adoption. So dito, sabi ng Supreme Court, notwithstanding Article 26 of the Family Code, by the way, Article 26, Paragraph 2, is the basis or the legal basis, substantial basis, why nire-recognize ng Philippine courts ang foreign divorce decree. That provision provides that if there is a valid marriage between a foreigner and a Filipino citizen, and the foreigner obtains a divorce decree abroad, capacitating the foreigner to remarry, the Filipina may also remarry. So that was the basis of the Supreme Court in granting recognition of foreign divorce. Nullity of marriage, which is the subject of this petition, is not covered by Article 26. So hindi siya granted, sabi ng RTC. Sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi. Notwithstanding Article 26 of the Family Code, Philippine courts already have the jurisdiction. Already have the jurisdiction to extend the effect of a foreign judgment in the Philippines. That does not contravene domestic public policy. So ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court dito, if there's a foreign judgment, as long as it does not contravene domestic public policy, it may be recognized in the Philippines. Next slide. So here, the Supreme Court even differentiated between a foreign divorce decree and a judgment nullifying a marriage on the ground of bigamy. Sabi niya, the critical difference between a foreign divorce decree and a foreign judgment nullifying a bigamous marriage is that bigamy as a ground for nullity of marriage is fully consistent with Philippine public policy. So hindi siya it's not contravening Philippine policy, the foreign judgment nullifying a marriage. But it is actually consistent. And it is consistent in relation to Article 35, Paragraph 4 of the Family Code, which is the ground for bigamy as for nullity of marriage, and Article 349 of the Revised Penal Code, which penalizes the crime of bigamy. Okay? So the Supreme Court said that if there is neither inconsistency with public policy nor adequate proof to repel the judgment, the Philippine courts should, by default, recognize the foreign judgment as part of Committee of Nations. So ang ganda ng pagkakasulat. Pero ano bang ibig sabihin ng Committee of Nations? Kasi wala tayong legal basis talaga. Wala talagang nasusulat sa batas, aside from the rules of court, na pwedeng i-recognize ang foreign judgment ng nullity of marriage. Sabi ng Supreme Court dito, if there is neither inconsistency with Philippine law or adequate proof to repel, Philippine courts should by default recognize the foreign judgment as part of Committee of Nations. So ano yung part of Committee of Nations? Anyone from the audience who knows part of Committee of Nations? Yes, actually that is correct. In layman, it is the respect given by nations to each other's laws, institutions, and judicial decisions, even though without legal obligation to do so. It's the mutual courtesy or respect that they accord to them. So, by virtue of that, nire-recognize natin. Next slide. So here, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. As cited a while ago, this was the basis, one of the basis of the Supreme Court kung ba't nire-recognize itong foreign judgment nullifying a marriage on the ground of bigamy. Sabi ng Supreme Court, under Rule 39, Section 48B, yung foreign judgment is already a presumptive evidence of a right between the parties. Presumptive pa lang pero once the judgment is recognized, the right becomes conclusive. So from presumptive, naging conclusive. So kapag naging conclusive na siya at na-recognize na, then it becomes the basis for the cancellation or correction of entry in the civil registry. So that's the impact of the recognition and that's the effect of the recognition pagdating sa Philippine Civil Registry. There's a foreign judgment which grants only presumptive evidence of right between the parties. Once the foreign judgment is recognized, it becomes a conclusive right, or the right which is mere presumptive becomes conclusive, and then the judgment will be the basis so that you can cancel, for example, nullification of marriage, the entry that they are married. You can annotate that. That's the basis of annotating that. Okay? And another thing, sabi ng Supreme Court, siyempre kapag na-recognize na siya, yung recognition ng foreign judgment nullifying a bigamous marriage is a subsequent event that establishes a new fact, a right, or a status that must be recorded in the civil registry. Kung hindi mo record yan, there will be inconsistency, sabi ng Supreme Court, between the recognition of the effectivity of the foreign judgment and the public records in the Philippines. Okay? So that's how the recognition of foreign judgment affects yung civil registry natin, or yung civil registration in the Philippines. Another case in point, next slide. So the first case was Corpus versus Santo Tomas, pertains sa foreign divorce, di ba? Next case, Fujiki versus Marinay, pertains naman sa foreign judgment nullifying a marriage on the ground of bigamy. And this third case, medyo controversial ito because this pertains to adoption. And pagdating sa adoption, we have existing laws. Before this case was decided in 2020, ang prevailing law natin sa adoption is RA 8043, the Inter-Country Adoption Act of 1995, and we also have the Domestic Adoption Act of 1998, or Republic Act 8552. So this case involves Yuta. He is the petitioner. Petitioner Yuta was the son of a Japanese national, Suzuki, and Magno, a Filipino citizen. However, petitioner's parents eventually separated. And Magno, petitioner's mother, married another Japanese national, who is Hayashi. Now, when petitioner turned 16, he was adopted by his mother's husband, Hayashi. So when he turned 24 and went back to the Philippines, he filed a petition for recognition of this foreign decree of adoption. So sa tingin natin, pwede bang i-recognize ito sa Philippines? Or do you think, adoption? We already have an adoption law here. So can we have this recognized? Next slide. Initially, the petition was dismissed by the regional trial court. What was the reason? Sabi niya, the recognition sought will render nugatory our laws on adoption. It will render the laws on adoption useless. Bakit? Pagdating daw sa adoption ng Filipino citizens, ang nag-govern dyan, either RA 8043 or RA 8552 lang. So since may batas tayong ganon, dapat i-adapt ka ni Hayashi based sa batas natin, hindi sa batas ng Japanese law. So that was one of the contentions of the RTC, or one of the basis of the RTC for dismissing the petition. So, anong sabi ng Supreme Court? Next slide. Sabi ng Supreme Court, well, tama ka RTC. Under Section 7 ng RA 8552, pwedeng i-adapt ni Hayashi yung step-parent, yung anak ng kanyang spouse, who is a legitimate child. Under Section 7. Pwede yan. Pero, I disagree, sabi ng Supreme Court, we disagree with your view na porke may ganyan, foreign adoption decrees involving Filipino citizens can no longer be recognized in the Philippines for being contrary to to public policy. So bakit kaya? Meron na tayong adoption laws, tas pwede palang i-adopt si petitioner based on that law, pero papayagan pa rin mag-recognize ng decree of ng foreign decree of adoption. So why is that? Next slide. So citing Justice De Los Santos, the Supreme Court said, sabi ng Supreme Court, it reminds that the principle behind the recognition and enforcement of a foreign judgment derives its force, sabi ng Supreme Court, not only from the rules of court, but from what? From the fact that such act of recognition is considered part of what is considered as the generally accepted principles of international. Ano ba tong generally accepted principles of international law? Under Article 2 of our Constitution, may tinatawag tayong incorporation clause. Now, under this incorporation clause, generally accepted principles of international law are regarded as part of the law of the land. So kahit hindi batas na ininak dito sa Pilipinas, hindi siya ininak ng Congress natin, if that is a generally accepted principle of international law, then it is deemed as part ng batas natin. So one of the bases is that, sabi ng Supreme Court, bakit siya kinakarakterize as generally accepted principles of international law? Because of the widespread practice among states accepting in principle the need for such recognition and enforcement. The procedure for recognition and enforcement is embodied in the rules of law, whether statutory or jurisprudential, in various foreign jurisdictions. So, karamihan ng state pinapractice ang pag-recognize ng judgment ng other states. In consonance din with the Committee of Nations na sinasabi natin kanina. So that is why part siya ng generally accepted principles of international law. Next slide. Medyo mahaba to, sorry. So sabi ng Supreme Court, so as already established, pwedeng i-adapt ni Hayashi si Utah under Philippine law. But it does not foreclose the fact that pwedeng i-recognize din yung Japanese foreign decree of adoption dito sa Philippines on the basis of what I just mentioned. Okay? So furthermore, just like the case of Fujiki versus Marinay, the recognition of the foreign judgment, once it is recognized, is a subsequent event that establishes a new status, a right, or a fact pagdating kay petitioner and must be registered sa Philippine Registry. Why will the recognition of the foreign judgment or foreign adoption decree establish a new fact, right, or status in favor of petitioner? Ano yung in-establish niya? Anyone? Of course, as mentioned kanina, under Rule 39, Section 48, presumptive evidence of a right pa lang. Presumptive evidence before recognition. Once that is recognized, it establishes the new status of petitioner as the son of the adopter. So that is why you must record that in the civil registry. Okay? Malinaw po? Buhay pa po ba tayo? Buhay pa tayo? Okay, thank you. So basically, yun lang po yung discussion natin pagdating sa jurisprudence. Next slide. Now, in relation to this, the PSA issued Memorandum Circular number 2025-06. So this provides for the procedure, the documentary requirements for the registration of recognized foreign decrees. So, under the MC, this will be the outline of the presentation. Actually, this is the outline of the Memorandum Circular 2025-06. We have first the coverage. So ano ba yung covered nitong Memorandum Circular? The second is, or ano ba yung mga excluded din? Third, what is the procedure for the registration of the final decree or order granting the petition for recognition of a foreign court decree? The fourth, documentary requirements for the registration of the foreign court decree. The fifth, documentary requirements for the registration of a decree of adoption issued by a foreign court. Six, the documentary requirements for the preparation of the annotated CRD. Seventh would be the documents needed for the preparation of the amended Colby. And lastly, documents needed for PSA processing. Next slide. So first, coverage. Ano ba yung included dito sa Memorandum Circular 2025-06? So, It covers the registration of final decree or order granting the recognition of foreign judgment, order, or decree. Kung makikita nyo yung first, generic siya. Foreign judgment, order, or decree siya. But this will include the foreign decree of adoption. So kapag hindi siya foreign decree of adoption, but it is a foreign decree that affects the civil status of persons, doon siya magpo-fall sa first. Okay? So ano yung excluded dito? Hindi kasama sa MC number 2025-06 ang final decree of adoption issued through the national or that passed by the National Authority for Child Care or yung NAC, and we have here our participants from NAC, or the Inter-Country Adoption Board. So yung registration ng foreign court adoption that passed through the ICAB, hindi po kasama sa MC 2025-06. Okay? Next slide. So, bali pinaiksi ko po siya, no? Kasi medyo mahaba yung pagkakasulat doon sa ating MC. So ginawa ko siyang ganito, who shall register? So under the MC, who shall register? Of course, the clerk of court or the petitioner or his authorized representative. So tatlo po, either the clerk of court, the petitioner, or his authorized representative. And when should the registration be made? If it's a foreign decree, judgment, or order, aside from a decree of adoption, then the registration must be made within 10 days after the order granting the foreign decree or order has become final and executory. So napag-usapan na natin kung kailan nagiging final and executory, di ba? Within 10 days po ng period na yon, after na-grant siya, or after siya naging final and executory, doon yung dapat i-register. Next slide, please. So saan siya dapat i-register? Yung decree granting a foreign, yung Philippine court decision granting a foreign decree. Sa LCRO where the court which rendered the decision is functioning. So kung ang nag-decide is dito sa Manila, then sa Manila ang registration. Pasig, then sa Pasig ang registration. Okay po? Next slide. So for foreign decree of adoption, ganyan din po. Who, what, and where should the registration be made? Same rule. The only difference is with the time frame. Sa foreign decree of adoption which has been recognized by Philippine courts, ang registration period is within 30 days. After the decree or order that granted the petition for recognition of foreign adoption becomes final and executory. Next slide. So ano naman po yung documentary requirements? For sure, kabisado na po ito ng mga LCRs, no? Tama po ba? LCRs? Kabisado na po ba natin ang requirements for the registration ng decree? Hindi pa. Well, this might help you, no? Kung ayaw nyo lang tignan yung mga I provided their mnemonics on top, yung DCOF na tinatawag. So for registration, ano yung D? It's the decision or order. Yung DE pertains to the decision or order of the foreign court, whereas the COF pertains to certificate of finality. So pagdating sa LCR, where the court is functioning and where the registration should be made, dalawa ang ipipresent ni petitioner. First is the D, decision or court order, and the COF or the certificate of finality. Next slide. So, pag na-receive na ni LCR yon, what are his duties? Ano dapat yung gawin ni LCR? Medyo mahaba yung mnemonics ko dyan, no? Varay, for, COF. So, VA, is verify the authenticity. R, to register the decree. A, to assign a registry number. And COR, or to issue, I is to issue, and COR is issue a certificate of registration, and COF is to issue certificate of finality. So medyo mas madali siyang tandaan. Paray COF. Ano yung duties ng LCR where the court which rendered the decision is functioning upon receipt of the request for registration? Paray COF. First, verify the authenticity. R, register the decree. A, assign a registry number. I, issue. Ano yung C? OR, COF. Yun yung issue niya. Certificate of registration and certificate of finality. Okay? Para mas madali po. Next slide. Okay. So next slide is, syempre, after mo ma-register sa LCR where the court is functioning, go forward yan sa LCR where the CRD affected is registered for annotation. Di po ba? So what are the documentary requirements pagdating po doon? Yan po yung tinatawag kong DCRAF. So ano yung DCRAF? First, syempre, yung decision or order na i-register mo. Pangalawa, yung certificate yung CJAN, and RAF are the certificates of registration, authenticity, and finality. So DCRAF lang siya. So pagdating sa LCR, where the CRD is registered, madali lang. Anong requirements? DCRAF. Ano yung DCRAF? Decision of the court. C, certificates. Ano yung mga certificates? RAF. Registration, authenticity, finality. Diba? Okay, next slide. So, documents needed for the preparation of an amended Colby. Actually, DCRAF din siya. Ang pinagkaiba lang, yung decree dito is decree of adoption. Okay? Next slide. Documents needed naman for the preparation of amended Colby. Next slide po. Dun sa PSA na po tayo. Okay, so documents needed for PSA processing in case of foreign court decree. So dito po, sa documents needed for the processing sa PSA, same pa rin siya, no? Dadagdagan lang natin ng UA. Two slides. So, DCRAF pa rin, decision, certificates of registration, authenticity, and finality. And of course, we also need the U. Ano yung U? An annotated copy of the CRD. And A, ano yung A? Annotated copy of the CRD. So, DCRAF, UA. Yun lang po yung requirements. Para mapadali. Kasi kung babasahin natin yung memo, nakakalito. Kung babasahin po natin yung memo, medyo marami. Certified true photocopy. Di ba masyadong mahaba? Now, if we put mnemonics, mas madali lang siya. Okay? So, DCRAF, UA. Tapos na siya sa PSA. Yun lang yung requirements mo. So, applicable yon for both foreign court decree, which is generic, and a foreign decree of adoption. Ang pinagkaiba lang sa foreign decree of adoption, yung unannotated pertains dun sa, ay yung unannotated, yun yung Colby. Hindi siya annotation pala. You prepare an amended Colby. Okay? So, unamended yung isa, tas amended naman yung isa. Next, I think that's all for my presentation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Peter Irish de Leon. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our next presenter. He presently holds the position of State Counsel 4 of the Legal Staff Department of Justice Philippines. He is a Senior Protection Officer of DOJ Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit, or RSPPU, the central authority of the government that examines and determines the status of refugees and stateless persons in the country.
He currently sits as the permanent member representing the Philippines and acts as the 2025 co-chair of the Advisory Committee to the Global Alliance to End Statelessness, a multi-stakeholder platform of 142 members composed of states, intergovernmental and interparliamentary organizations, UN agencies, stateless-led organizations, civil society, and faith-based organizations, among others. This is created to address in ending statelessness around the world.
He is a member of the Supreme Court Special Committee that drafted the rule on facilitated naturalization for refugees and stateless persons. He is also a regular lecturer and a resource person on statelessness and refugee matters in several fora, both local and abroad.
Our speaker is also involved in study missions on refugees and statelessness in New Zealand and the United Kingdom. He took up specialized courses in international statelessness law, masterclass at the Institute on Statelessness and Inclusion, Tilburg University, Tilburg, Netherlands in 2016, and international refugee law at the International Institute of Humanitarian Law in San Remo, Italy in 2017. In 2021, he completed the summer courses in Public International Law and Private International Law at the Hague Academy of International Law. In February 2024, he was also chosen to participate on-site in the first advanced courses of the Hague Academy of International Law in the Philippines, which was organized by the Philippine Judicial Academy of the Supreme Court.
He was proactive in advocating for the issuance of birth certificates to foundlings, Executive Order Number 163, on the protection services for refugees, stateless persons, and asylum seekers, accession to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness, and Proclamation Number 265 declaring a National Refugee Day every 20th of June. He actively led the DOJ RSPPU in field missions in nationality issues involving persons of Indonesian descent, persons of Japanese descent, and the Sama Bajaus in Zamboanga and Tawi-Tawi, populations identified by the government as at risk of statelessness.
Prior to DOJ, he was a former court attorney of the Court of Appeals, Manila, and a senior associate lawyer of Saludo Agpalo Fernandez Aquino or SAFA law firm. He also teaches constitutional law at the College of Law of the University of Perpetual Help Delta System Molino campus. He was admitted to the Philippine Bar in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our next speaker, Attorney Melvin C. Suarez.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, very kind but long introduction. Sorry for that. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, participants. Thank you, PSA, for giving me the opportunity to share the issues on statelessness in relation to civil registration and vital statistics. Okay, next slide, please. So I'll start direct to the point due to limited time. I start by citing who are citizens of the Philippines through our three relevant Philippine constitutions, 1935, 1973, and 1987 Constitution. So we have here in the slide who are citizens of the Philippines under the 1935 Constitution. The relevant enumeration of who are citizens under this Constitution is the provision on whose mothers are citizens of the Philippines upon reaching the age of majority elect Philippine citizenship. So if you look at it, if you can see in the screen, under the 1935 Constitution, if the father is a Filipino, the child is a Filipino. But it's not the same case if the mother is a Filipina. In the enumeration there, the mother is a Filipino citizen who is married to an alien or a foreigner. The child follows the nationality or citizenship of the alien father. So the child is not Filipino. Unless upon reaching the age of majority, which at that time 21 years old, the child elects Philippine citizenship and thus becomes a natural-born Filipino citizen. Okay, but I'd like to emphasize that the Philippines adopts the nationality law, the principle of jus sanguinis, if you are familiar with that, no? The child is granted citizenship based on the blood relations of the child to the parents. So if the parents is a Filipino, the child is a Filipino. That's jus sanguinis, no? Compared to the principle of jus soli, wherein the basis of citizenship is the place of birth of the child. Okay, next slide. Now, election of Philippine citizenship. So this is very relevant on the issue on statelessness. I'm sorry, the definition is in the later slide on statelessness. Just to give a background, no? A stateless person is one who is not considered as a national by any state under the operation of its law. In layman's term, a stateless person is a citizen of nowhere. He is not a citizen or national of any country. Okay. Now, formal election of Philippine citizenship, we have a law, very old law, no? Commonwealth Act number 625 in 1941, which requires how to validly elect Philippine citizenship. So the requirement under that law is that it must be in writing, it must be under oath, and then there must be an oath of allegiance to the Philippine government, and that oath is registered in the nearest local civil registry. So this is the requirement under the 1935 Constitution if that child, born of a Filipino mother and alien father, elects Philippine citizenship upon reaching the age of 21. Now, mind you, the status of the child should be legitimate to qualify for election. Because if the child is illegitimate, meaning the child is born outside of a valid marriage, the child follows the nationality of the Filipino mother. So that election applies only to legitimate children. No? And then I want to point out that there is a period required when to elect Philippine citizenship. It's not automatically upon reaching the age of 21 that you have to elect. There is a grace period of 3 years from reaching 21. So therefore, it must be until the age of 24. And not exceeding 7 years, where you are allowed, the child is allowed to elect Philippine citizenship. Okay. We have a case of application for admission to the Philippine Bar, which was the Vicente Ching case. He is from La Union, I think, Tubao. He was a board member of the Sangguniang Bayan. He was a certified public accountant. But Ching is born of a Chinese father and a Filipino mother. Now, he studied law in St. Louis University in Baguio. In 1998, he graduated law in 1998 and was he took the bar in 1998. No? Only that it was conditional because on the issue of his citizenship. So it was conditional. Now, after the results of the bar in 1999, Ching passed the bar examination, but he was not allowed to take his oath as a lawyer because of the issue of his citizenship. What was the issue here? No, Ching was able to elect Philippine citizenship, but only belatedly, 14 years after reaching the age of 21. And Ching failed to provide a justifiable reason why he belatedly elected Philippine citizenship. Therefore, the Supreme Court in that case did not allow Ching to take his oath as a member of the Philippine Bar for failing to elect on time, no? His Philippine citizenship. We also have a case on informal election. So there is such a thing as informal election. In Quico versus Secretary of Justice, this is the case where the period was provided, no, by the Supreme Court. Because CA Commonwealth Act number 625 did not provide the period, 3 years to 7 years. It was in Quico versus Secretary of Justice that interpreted what is reasonable time upon reaching the age of 21, majority age, to elect Philippine citizenship. Okay. Then we have this salimuot, no? The medyo tedious, controversial case of Prescott versus Bureau of Immigration. I put there informal election, but in this case, the Supreme Court ruled that it fall under a formal election of Philippine citizenship, not under CA number 625, but under Republic Act number 9225, the law on citizenship retention and reacquisition. Okay? So, in this case, Prescott was born of an American father and a Filipina mother. Then he availed of RA 9225 decades after, so around 30 years. He did not elect under CA number 625. Very late election. But the Supreme Court sided no, with Prescott in this case, invoking the cases of Malyari Co. versus House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal and Kabilingma versus Fernandez Jr. These are the cases where the Supreme Court sustained that even without validly electing Philippine citizenship under CA number 625, still there is such a thing as informal election. Because in the case of Malyari, Malyari believed that he was Filipino. Mixed parentage, Chinese father, Filipina mother. All his life, he thought that he was a Filipino. He voted in regular Philippine elections. In his identity documents, he identified himself as a Filipino. So the Supreme Court, that case, considered that as an informal election. The same case in Co. versus House of Representatives, Electoral Tribunal. I think Co. comes from Samar, no? A representative, member of the House of Representatives in Samar before. So the same. He exercises the right to vote, and in his documents, he portrays himself as a Filipino citizen. And it was sustained by the court. In Kabilingma versus Fernandez Jr., there was a valid election under CA number 625. The issue here is that there was a failure to register the election with the local civil registrar. The Supreme Court ruled that even if there was a delay in the registration of the election, still it is considered as a valid election of Philippine citizenship under, say, number 625, because he was able to elect being a Filipino citizen, only that there was a delay in the registration. Next slide. Now, we go to the 1973 Constitution, no? For our citizens under the 1973 Constitution. So if you will see the highlighted group of our citizens, in the third enumeration, those who elect Philippine citizenship pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution of 1935. So election of Philippine citizenship under 1935 Constitution was carried over in the 1973 Constitution. Next slide, please. The 1987 Constitution. If you can see the highlighted portion, the enumeration, the third group, those who were born before January 17, 1973, of Filipino mothers who elect Philippine citizenship upon reaching the age of majority. So what's the relevance of the date there, no? January 17, 1973. It's the effectivity date of the 1973 Constitution. So if you were able to elect Philippine citizenship, no, under the 1935 Constitution, when the 1973 Constitution took effect, you are also considered as a natural-born Filipino citizen under the 1987 Constitution. This is our present Constitution now. Okay, I mentioned here, Section 4, on the retention of Philippine citizenship after marriage to aliens. Before, under Commonwealth Act number 63, if a Filipino woman marries a foreigner and the nationality law of the foreigner husband allows the Filipino spouse to acquire the nationality of his foreigner husband, it's a ground to lose Philippine citizenship. Okay? So, under the 1987 Constitution, Section 4, Article 4, it's not the case anymore. So, if any Filipino citizen, whether a male or a female who marries a foreigner, retains his or her Philippine citizenship. So, pinapayagan natin yung dual multiple nationality, which is also covered under Republic Act number 9225. So, pwedeng Filipino citizen ka, an American citizen at the same time, German citizen or Canadian citizen. So, that's RA number 9225. Next slide, please. So, here comes the definition of a stateless person. Sorry for that, no? Presently, we don't have a domestic law on statelessness, comprehensive law for that matter. But we have scattered legal provisions on statelessness because under our immigration law, Philippine Immigration Act of 1940 as amended, there is such a thing as stateless visa under Section 13 of that law. So when a person is recognized as stateless, no nationality, no citizenship, who will recognize the person as stateless person? It's our unit, the Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit of the Department of Justice. We are the central authority that recognize who are stateless persons in the Philippines, beginning in 2012, after the Philippines acceded to the 1954 Statelessness Convention in 2011. So kami ang magsasabi kung stateless ang tao o hindi after filing an application with our office. Okay, since we don't have a domestic law for that matter, we adopted the definition of stateless person under the 1954 Statelessness Convention in our circular number 24 issued in 2022, Section 1, Paragraph R. So I mentioned that there should be a stateless application filed with the DOJ, RSPPU, and then we must render a decision recognizing the person as stateless. No? And by that time, it's officially considered as a position of the government recognizing the person as stateless and under the protection of the Philippine government. Then we also have the so-called persons at risk of statelessness by the acronym PAROS. So what is this PAROS? These PAROS are a group of populations, no? Persons in the Philippines who have difficulty in proving their legal identity on their citizenship or nationality. So we call them PAROS. I have a slide on this later on. Next slide. So we go back to the national framework now, legal framework on statelessness. Of course, it's based on our Philippine Constitution. No? Section 2, Article 2, mentioned by Attorney Iris a while ago. The Philippines adopts the generally accepted principles of international law as part of the law of the land. So what are these generally accepted principles of international law? These are norms or principles of customary international law which have been practiced by states, no? Recognized by states under a sense of legal obligation. So there is no need for a law to be passed under this provision. This is the incorporation clause of the 1987 Constitution. Examples: renunciation, the principle of renunciation of war as an instrument of national policy. It's a general accepted principle of international law. The right of a person to life, liberty, and due process. Pacta sunt servanda principle, meaning the provisions of the treaty must be complied with in good faith. So these are examples. No? And another one, sovereign equality among states. Now, we have also Section 21, Article 7 of the Constitution. This is the so-called doctrine of transformation. So in this case, an international agreement, a treaty, forms part of the law of the land through domestic legislation. How? By concurrence by the Senate of a treaty. 2/3 votes of all members of the Senate. So after the treaty is ratified by the President, it will now be subsequently concurred by the Senate under this provision. And then there is a corresponding legislation to implement the provisions of the treaty. Okay? That is called the principle of accession, no? Transformation, then accession. We have the Family Code of the Philippines. What's in the Family Code? Stateless persons are allowed to marry, even if they are stateless. So what's required of them? Instead of securing a certificate of legal capacity to contract marriage, saan sila kukuha? Wala naman silang state or government. Wala silang embassy. So instead, they will just execute an affidavit to attest their legal capacity to contract marriage in securing a marriage license. We have the interagency agreement on the protection of refugees, asylum seekers, and stateless persons in 2017. We have Executive Order number 163. This is the institutionalization of the protection services for refugees, stateless persons, and asylum seekers. No? We have our circular number 24, the DOJ. These are part of the issuances of the government in the absence of a comprehensive domestic law on statelessness. Kasi wala pa tayong batas, so dito tayo dumaan sa mga executive issuances. No? Then we have the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, no? Implementing EO 163. So the present administration is also supportive, no? On protecting the persons of concern. POC, persons of concern, is the collegial term, collective term, in reference to refugees, stateless persons, asylum seekers, stateless applicants, and PAROS, persons at risk of statelessness. Then we have issuances from the executive and judicial branches. You can see from the different agencies there, DOLI, DSWD, DILG, TESDA, DTI, PRC, PSA, DOH, MIA, and the Supreme Court from the judiciary. We have the National Action Plan to End Statelessness. Ito yung kanina, no? No one should be left behind. Everyone should be in the picture. UNHCR launched in 2014, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, launched in 2014 the I Belong campaign to end statelessness around the world, a 10-year program. So it ended last year, 2024. UNHCR has 10 action points. The Philippines adopted only 7, which are practical and applicable to our setting. So that constituted our National Action Plan. We call it NAP. No? So we launched it in 2017. Now, it ended last year, but statelessness remains a problem today. Millions are still identified as stateless. It's not an accurate figure because it's difficult to trace who are persons without legal identity. So, presently, it was launched last year in October, the new multi-stakeholder platform as an upgrade of the I Belong campaign of UNHCR. It's called the Global Alliance to End Statelessness. And we are the very first Philippines to become a member of the GATES. That's the acronym, Global Alliance to End Statelessness. Then we are also co-chairing the advisory committee to the Global Alliance. So yours truly was chosen to represent the country as co-chair for this year, 2025. 15 members of the Global Advisory Committee, only 3 member states, Philippines, Brazil, and the United States. But unfortunately, the United States withdrew its membership on the advisory committee. So there might be a replacement, another country. Then Philippines is also a solution seeker state for its many milestones and accomplishments in addressing statelessness in the country. Next slide, please. So we have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between the Public Attorney's Office and the UNHCR, wherein stateless persons, POC in general, are provided free legal services by the Public Attorney's Office, free of charge, free legal representation. We have the new Philippine Passport Act. What's in the passport law, the new passport law? A travel document, because stateless persons are also allowed to travel within the country, outside of the country. So they don't have a passport because they don't have a government. So what will be issued to them is a travel document by the Department of Foreign Affairs upon endorsement by the DOJ RSPPU, recognizing the person as stateless, so he can travel outside of the Philippines. Yung travel document nila, I think it's colored green, looks like a passport also. Regular passport natin is brown, kanila naman green. Same with refugees. PhilSys, so na-mention na, in PhilSys law, refugees and stateless persons are covered. And we are advocating for inclusion of other POC in the PhilSys. PhilSys law. If the objective is inclusivity, they should be also covered because they are here in the country. Imagine if we will not issue them an ID, they are roaming around here. And for the southern part of the Philippines, in some areas where they have problems on security, some are just being grabbed and pointed as a member of an extremist group or because they have no legal identity to present. No? Foundling Protection and Recognition Act, so very relevant in relation to the controversial, interesting case of foundlings in 2016. So you're familiar with that case, 2016. Senator Grace Poe's case, where the Supreme Court ruled that all foundlings found within the Philippines are presumed to be natural-born Filipino citizens because either of the parents is a Filipino national unless there is a contrary evidence that will prove otherwise. So that was the pronouncement of the Supreme Court in 2016. You know, foundlings are only issued with certificates of foundlings. There is no nationality of foundlings in the certificates of foundlings. And we are looking at parents patre, state protecting children. We are looking after the principle of best interest of the child. Imagine a foundling growing up to study, later on to work without identity document. Okay. So we have this law in 2022 that concretized the ruling of the Supreme Court. No? In the law, it expanded. It says foundlings, even those who are found in Philippine embassies, consular offices abroad, no, are also considered as natural-born Filipino citizens. Then the revised naturalization law and administrative naturalization law. So naturalization is when a stateless person, remember that the only durable solution for a stateless person is to acquire a nationality. Okay? So he can apply for naturalization, either before the courts or administrative before the office of the Solicitor General. Then we have the Supreme Court rule on facilitated naturalization of refugees and stateless persons. Ano ito? In expedited case, if you are a recognized refugee or stateless person, you can apply to become a Filipino citizen under this facilitated rule of the Supreme Court. Mas mabilisan. It's summary in nature. Then we have, I will not just discuss the cases for limited time constraints. No? And then I mentioned already retention, Kukuritskin. I'll skip on this one. No? I'm lecturing on national framework, an average of 2 hours. I've given only 30 minutes. Next slide, please. Then, paros, persons of Indonesian descent. No? Mixed parentage of Indonesian parent and Filipino parent. What's the issue? Southern Mindanao ito, no? Taga Mindanao dito. There is a law in Indonesia that if you are outside of Indonesia, you must report to the Indonesian consulate once in 5 years to manifest your intention to remain Indonesian. Otherwise, it's a ground to lose your Indonesian nationality. So, kinaklarify natin ang PID, whether Indonesians or Filipino citizens. So, there was a project on this one by the UN, funded by UNHCR in 2014 to address this issue. Then, Sama Bajaos, no? Itinerant lifestyle of indigenous people, yung livelihood in the waters. Common denominator in these cases of paros is the lack of birth registration and eventually the failure to issue a COLB, no? Certificate of Live Birth, because of the absence of birth registration. And without a birth certificate, it's difficult to prove the citizenship or nationality of the person. Of course, by operation of law, sabihin natin, under the Constitution, if the father or mother is Filipino, the child is Filipino. But it's a different thing to prove your Philippine citizenship, to avail of to exercise your basic rights, no? As a citizen. Unregistered children in conflict displacement settings, the same. Lack of birth registration, palipat-lipat because of the conflict situation in the area where they reside. Then we have children of Philippine descent in migratory settings, mostly in the Middle East. No? Children born out of with lack of our female OFWs. Worst case, victims of sexual violence. Rape, nabuntis ng anak. Who will you identify as father of the child? the rapist. So, tinatago yung bata, hindi nire-report sa embassy. So, there is no legal identity document of the child in that case, no? Although we know that the mother is a Filipina. Then we have the persons of Japanese descent, no? Same mixed parentage. This is relevant in the 1935 Constitution. Alien Filipino mother, Japanese father. Now, there is no election. They do not know that they have the right to elect. And the Japanese government informed us that most of the PGD, more or less 2,000 from 3,000, no? or 1,000 plus na lang, have no record of birth in the family register of Japan. So they disclaim that they are Japanese nationals. So what are their nationality? So they are paros, no? So far. Next slide, please. Then our NAP, no? Itong 7 action points. As I mentioned, first, resolve existing cases of statelessness. Second, no child is born stateless. Remove gender discrimination from nationality laws. Grant protection status and facilitate naturalization of stateless persons. Ensure birth registration for the prevention of statelessness. Accede to the statelessness conventions. And improve quantitative and qualitative data on stateless populations. So number 6, na-comply na natin to sa accession. Lahat. 1954 Statelessness Convention and 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. Next slide. Okay, durable solutions in brief to prevent and end statelessness. Birth registration, including delayed birth registration. Why? Because subsequently, you are entitled to be issued with a certificate of live birth. And from the Colby, you can see now, applying the principle of jus sanguinis on the nationality of the child from the birth certificate. Then acquisition of nationality, either naturalization, could be through the court or through the office of the Solicitor General. Pardon me, I have just 2 video clips, 2 minutes each, I think, on statelessness. One taken from the UNHR I Belong campaign and one from the UNSCAP on statelessness. Next slide. Can you please play the video?
Successful annotated civil registry documents as of June 2025. Here's a quick trivia.
The slide on statelessness. Can you play that? It's a 2-minute video clip. If not, the next slide na lang, yung sa UNSCAP. There's no audio. Okay, so sorry for that technical glitch. So that videos actually show you the difficulties of a person considered as stateless, no? Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Attorney Melvin Suarez of the Department of Justice. Our technical team will try our best to download the video so that we can play that on a later time during this day of the convention. And now, after hearing talks from our experts since this morning, I'm pretty sure that most of us already absorbed many information and has been keeping questions to ask later, and now later has arrived. So it is now time for our open forum. So let us not forget to scan the QR codes that we have so that you may also send your questions for our experts to answer them. Now, allow me to introduce the moderator of this session's open forum. Our moderator serves as the first regional director of the Philippine Statistics Authority, Regional Statistical Services Office 5, and was appointed as Career Executive Service Officer CESO Rank 5. She also led the office to acquire ISO QMS 9001-2015 certification since 2017. It is also her passion and dedication that paved the way for the region to bag several awards during the PSA Awards ceremonies and branded to be one of the top 5 performing regions among the 17 PSA Regional Statistical Services offices from 2015 to present. She previously holds the Acting Director 2 position of the then National Statistics Office, Regional Office 5 from 2012 to 2014. She also completed Master in Development Management under the Public Management Development Program at the Development Academy of the Philippines, where she graduated class valedictorian. Furthermore, her extensive knowledge on civil registration earned herself the respect as a PSA accredited speaker on this field. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the Regional Director of RSSO 5, RD Cynthia L. Perdiz. Let us give her a big round of applause.
Thank you, Miss Nicole. Good afternoon, everyone. Kumusta kayo? Ay, naku, tulog na siguro, pero very, very interesting yung 5 topics, no? Kaninang umaga at ngayong hapon. So, we can now proceed with the most awaited part of the session, the open forum. Everyone is invited. Kanina po na flash yung ating QR code where you can send your questions. And this is the chance for you to clarify matters and ask further questions related to the presented topic. So, as I mentioned, we have the ECRVS this morning. We have Attorney Booth's presentation on the CRBS bill proposed. And of course, our State Council from DOJ, yung ating statelessness framework, and of course, jurisprudence on yung ating international, no? Yung ating mga court orders. Okay. So, makikita ko daw dito yung anyong mga questions. Aside from that, sabi natin, only related questions doon sa mga topics na na-mention ang ating i-consider. Okay, so any unanswered questions will be collated later, pero lahat po ito ay masasagot ng ating mga discussants and resource speakers and will be part of the documentation of this convention. So I think we are only given 30 minutes for the open forum, and we start with the first question. So may I invite the 4 gentlemen and CCR Milles of Alaminos, Pangasinan, to be here on stage and to answer questions related to the topics you have presented. Okay po. So wala bang nag-scan ng QR code? Questions, please? Ready na ang ating mga resource speakers. Prompter, please. Waiting daw. So anyway, napaka-importante ng mga topics. In fact, kung ako lang ang magtatanong, marami akong tanong. But sabi ko nga, this is the first question from Albert Torion of LGU Cardona Rizal for ECRVS. So this is for OICDNS Mens or Kimam CCR. So first question is, sa ECRVS system, kapag ang data ay naisumiti na at na-review, posible pa ba itong ma-edit?
Thank you very much. Maganda yung tanong. Marami sigurong interesado sa ECRVS. Okay, as explained kanina, both at the theoretical sa kayong practice level, may iba-ibang level ng data entry. So pwedeng ang data entry will be at the hospital or sa lying-in clinic or sa barangay. Doon na-explain kanina na dapat i-interviewin ng hospital personnel yung data na ilalagay sa system. Tapos, that data will be transmitted to the LCRO for approvals and later on for assignment of registry number. Dito lang, ang difference is that sa system natin in-encode. Now, in the event na yung interview will not filter yung error, ibig sabihin, error pa din yung nailagay, at nakarating na sa local civil registrar at na-assignan na ng registry number, then we'll have to undergo the same process of correcting it dahil registered na under our procedures, registered na yung document pag na-assign na natin ng registry number, di ba? So dito, kaya importante yung pre-pilot na ginagawa natin because gusto natin na at the level ng data entry, na-explain din natin doon kanina, sa data entry, ano siya, ipaprompt ka nung system kung may error or may mali sa i-entry mo. Pero kung lumusot doon at nakarehistro na nga, we will have to go through the process of correction pa din. So, ganun yung sistema. Okay ba? On the second, yung question
The second
na...
question,
Yeah.
may downloadable bang Excel or PDF file na magagamit para sa paghahanap ng data?
Okay. This is a work in progress kasi ang gusto nating alamin, ano ba ang magiging data requirement halimbawa ni hospital or ni LCRO na reports? Anong reports ang kailangan niya? As to downloadable, ibig sabihin, halimbawa, si hospital gusto niya ng summary ng ilan ang nirehistro niya o sino-sino mga nirehistro niya sa isang buwan. Then that can be part of the reports that we can produce out of the system. But ensuring na meron tayong data privacy because this list cannot be just disseminated to anybody na hindi naman siya party dun sa data. Administratively, pwedeng i-gather ni hospital yung kanyang records for purposes of summarizing ilan ang pinanganak sa kanyang facility for 1 month. Sa LCRO naman, lagi nating ginagawa yan. So, dapat doon merong reports na ganun. Okay?
Thank you, Sir Ments. So, siguro na-answer na yung question. So, may additional information si Ma'am CCR. Milias.
In addition po, thank you, Sir Mench, for the answer. Nangyari po actually po yung situation na ganon during the pre-pilot. So, ang case po kasi na tinatanong, ma'am, is from the hospital forwarded to the LCRO, may i-edit pa po ba? So, may mga cases kasi during the pre-pilot, tulad po na nasabi ko kanina, we are doing the manual and at the same time, the ECRVS, we are using the ECRVS system. Dalawa po yung pinadala sa amin ng hospital. Ulitin ko po, yung Colby at saka yung from the ECRVS system. During the pre-pilot po, we get to check the Colby with the certificate, with the entries na ipinadala. At may mga instances po na, sir, hindi nga po nag-autocorrect tulad po ng mga may missing entries, tulad sa mga address or yung may mga entries po doon na kulang. May capacity po na na-check, i-review. Pero once na na-assign na po ng doon po yung time na yun na pag may napansin kami, then we call the attention of the hospital. But if and when na-assign na po namin ng registry number and already approved by the civil registrar, ibig sabihin na i-transmit na po namin yon, then there is no way that we could edit the document that was submitted through ECRVS.
So dapat maingat na maingat pala yung ating mga LCROs sa pag-review ng mga items sa ating Colby or the COD. So, additional questions? Okay, so this is for foreign judgments. Attorney De Leon. Questions from Saki Reyes of Swiss Embassy for legal implications of foreign judgments. Foreign national who got married in the Philippines and living in the Philippines got divorced on his or her home country. Thus, the foreign divorce needs to be registered in the civil registry office where he or she resides to get married again in the Philippines?
Thank you for that beautiful question po, no? So, this question requires us to review our family code on the requirement of marriage license. So, if we are talking about a foreigner, the one applicable is not Article 13 of the Family Code, but Article 21. Now, under Article 13 of the Family Code, if one of the parties is married, he has to prove that the marriage has been dissolved. And one of the proof is the judicial decree of divorce. However, if that party is a foreigner, Article 21 of the Family Code only requires that he presents a certificate of legal capacity from his embassy. So if he presents that, then he can marry in the Philippines, regardless of whether or not the divorce decree is presented. Yun po. Thank you.
So, hindi kasi clear sa akin eh. So, okay na yon? Kasi he got married in the Philippines. So, wala namang divorce dito except for Muslims, di ba? Pero sabi niya, thus the foreign divorce needs to be registered in the civil registry office.
The answer is no po.
So, the answer is no.
As long as he presents a certificate of legal capacity from his embassy, then that will be sufficient to establish that he has the legal capacity to marry in the Philippines.
Oo, kasi sabi niya, foreign national pala siya. Sige pa. Thank you very much, Ms. Saki and Attorney De Leon. Okay, so next please. Wala na ba? Ayan, marami pala. From Anonymous for ending statelessness. Okay, so Attorney Suarez. Can you provide the special coverage or areas where paros are covered by DOJ? Example is PIDS and Philippine Nikkei Chin. And another one, what the LCRO can support to this national action plan.
Hello. Thank you for the very interesting questions. No? Number one, there is a coverage of the areas already of paros. No? For persons of Indonesian descent, called the PID, it's the entire Mindanao area. So there was a project to address the nationality issues, registration and confirmation of nationality of the PID in 2014, no, funded by UNHCR between Philippines and Indonesia. So we registered a total of 8,745 after a mapping exercise going all over Mindanao. So 8,745, the results were that more than 2,000 were identified as Filipinos, more than 2,000 were identified as Indonesians by the Indonesian government. They sent a legal team from Jakarta, no? So, but there are still remaining unmapped PID, more or less 3,000 who did not take part in that project. So they might be covered in the next phase if there is a budget for that. Because the first budget was funded by UNHCR, and we know the budget challenge of the UNHCR. So it's entire southern Philippines, no? Then Philippine Ikijin, Japanese descendants, mostly in Davao region, Palawan, and some parts in Baguio. Northern, upper part of northern Luzon. But remember, the PGD, second generation Philippine Ikijins, are aged early 80s to mid 80s already, 81, 82 years old. So they are dying actually. With the onslaught of the pandemic, nababawasan tong more or less 2,000. So the project is covering for the possible registration of Nikijins within Davao region, Palawan, and some parts of upper northern Luzon. And to the second question, what
Ano
does
daw pong support ang pwedeng
LCRO
maibigay
can
ng
support?
LCRO sa National
The
Action Plan?
LCROs actually are the frontliners in addressing the issues of the paros. Kasi kayo ang nagre-register. So through delayed birth registration, we're just fortunate, I think, in our domestic law, there is no prescriptive period, I think, on delayed birth registration. I learned in one country who applied for us for statelessness, there was a period when to register. Otherwise, if you fail to register your birth within that prescribed period, you are banned forever from registering. So you will not acquire a nationality. So in our case, we allow delayed birth registration even for decades. In fact, recently, we already started registering the Sama Bajaus, starting in 2019 in Zamboanga. And there is a continuing initiative for delayed birth registration of the Sama Bajaus. And recently, there's a project between Japan, funded by Japan and UNHCR, to cover at least 50 municipalities in Tawi-Tawi for delayed birth registration of the Sama Bajaus, including non-combatants of the MILF, for delayed birth registration initiatives. And this will address the more or less 3%, remaining more or less 3% who are unregistered, to address the issue of this population at being at risk of becoming stateless.
Thank you, sir. So that was a very clear answer to the two questions. So any other questions? Pag wala, ayan, ito pa. Tapos na. Okay. O, ito daw. There is a question here to Sir Boots. What is the envisioned digitalization provision in the proposed CRVS bill?
Yes, maganda yon, no? Kasi sinasabi nga kanina ng ating National Statistician and Civil Registrar General that the way to go is really to digitally transform and to adopt really digital platforms or digital tools. Maraming phases ng digitalization. Number one is that to adopt on the registration level a digital tool, no? So ito yung mga ginagawa natin like the NCCRVS, no? We also have the APCAS, no? Na kailangan nating i-utilize or i-maximize yung potential ng mga to, no? Another one is the interoperability. Ito naman yung hindi lang ito yung ginagamit natin on our own in our day-to-day operations, but also other stakeholders that can make use of the information that we collect, no? So, isa din yon, yung interoperability ng system that also is being talked in the proposed CRBS bill. Another aspect of digitalization is the old records coming from the manual copies or yung mga physical copies, no? So, there's also a provision in the CRBS bill to convert it into a digital copy, no? So this will be digitized, no? Doon sa mga older na mga physical copies natin ng civil registry documents. And of course, if we are using digital tools, maraming threats yan. And part of the digitalization strategy that is being proposed also in the bill is that we need to protect the data that is being processed in our digital platform. And therefore, we have provisions safeguarding this data that we are collecting. And this should be compliant to international standards with our data privacy law, cybersecurity law, and all other information security principles that is being implemented or imposed or required by our Department of Information and Communications Technology. That's all.
Thank you, Attorney Boots. So, any other questions? Okay, so meron tayong question from M. Gargalicana, LCRO, Iloilo City for ECRVS. For delayed registration where there is posting period, we do wait for the posting period to finish before approval. So, may 10-day posting period yon. Similarly, for applicants 80 years old, do we wait for the verification before approval? So this is for the ECRVS. Kasi may current tayong sinusunod, no? Verification ng mga 80 years old before it is being approved for registration. And ito naman, yung delayed registration, we have a posting period of 10 days before approval. So, may effect ba ito doon sa ating ECRVS?
Okay. Thank you very much, RD. Remember, yung ECRVS natin, ang purpose niya is to digitalize the system. Put it in a system to make the turnaround time faster, secured yung data na na-store doon, and then yung retrieval will be easier. We are not altering existing procedures on late registration or the existing rules on delayed registration for 80 years old and above. These are all applicable to the system. What we're doing with the ECRVS is that there will be no shortcuts, but on a platform that is faster and there will be one true source of data, and that the LCRs and those registering, especially the hospitals and lying-in clinics, they're involved in the process of data entry of the document to be registered. Whether there will be changes in the procedures, that will not be changed by the ECRVS. The ECRVS is a channel to register the vital events. As explained this morning, we are not saying that through this one we will sidestep or go over the existing rules and regulation on registration. So yun po. On that question, lahat ba ng procedures on the registration ay susundan? Yes. For 80 years old, susundan ba yung waiting period? Yes. We will do that. Okay?
So, pareho pa din po, no?
Oo.
Yung
May I
ating
just-
requirement.
RD, may I add on the ECRVS, there are quarters requesting how they will be part of the pre-pilot activities. So maganda naman yun kasi actually kaninang umaga when it was being discussed, the good mayor of Mabalacat City was asking his civil registrar that he wanted to be part of the pre-pilot activity. That's good. Now, the reason why we are conducting pre-pilot activities, we would like the local civil registrar to be part of how we perfect this system. Part kayo dun sa experience nyo, i-input nyo dun sa system para makonsider natin. Now, another reason for pre-piloting it, we would like you and your local chief executives to buy into the idea of ECRVS because later on, your LGU will have to be funding that component that requires computers, that requires personnel who will be trained, kailangan ng scanner. This will have to be from your end, from the end of the LGU, that you would like to benefit from the system of ECRVS. So yan yung ating gustong i-push. Now, we have CCR Lovely here of Alaminos. Later on, the CCR of Marikina will be saying their experience. And sa ngayon pala nakita nila, kung ganito nga ang system, there will be less and less errors on their end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Men. So that explains well our agam-agam, no, sa ating ECRVS. Okay, so additional questions, please. So we are given siguro 5 minutes na lang. Kaya last 2 questions na lang ang ating i-accommodate in the interest of time. Meron pa po ba? Or we accept questions from the attendees? Wala. So kung merong nagre-raise ng hand, hindi siya nakapag-QR code. So last 2 questions. Hindi ko po masyadong makita kayo. Sir. Sino? Ato. Thank you. For Attorney Suarez, pero si Sir ay hindi nag-identify ng kanyang pangalan. But anyway, here it is, Sir. I have a friend, his wife was born in the Philippines and became an American citizen because she's been living in the States for 25 years. My friend is also an American citizen because he joined the U.S. Navy. Now they have a child who is already 23 years old. The child was born in one of the American base in Japan. American base in Japan. So naturally, he is an American citizen. My question is there a way for his son to become at least a dual citizen? So maybe I'll give you this question, sir, para mas maano ni sir, analyze. Thank you.
So I'm taking an advanced bar examination again. Thank you for the question.
Haba kasi.
Okay. Wife was born in the Philippines. Does the wife has a birth certificate as a Filipino citizen? Because if the wife has a birth certificate and proves that she is a Filipino citizen, we will look into the date of birth of the child. Because if the child is born under the 1973 or 1987 Constitution, where either of the parents is a Filipino, whether the father or the mother, the child is a Filipino. And it doesn't matter if the child acquires a foreign nationality by applying, because American nationality laws is usually, which was, I think, repealed by an executive order recently, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump, that usually applies only to children of slaves under the Constitution. So it's no longer usually. But yes, I'm saying that if the mother here is a Filipina and has a certificate of live birth, and her child was born either the advent or the effectivity of the 1973 or 87 Constitution, the child is also a Filipino. Now, So if the child is a Filipino, natural-born Filipino citizen, assuming because the mother is a Filipino with birth certificate, no? On the assumption that the mother has a birth certificate, the child can apply for reacquisition of Philippine citizenship under RA 9225. If the date of birth of the child was before 2008, before the effectivity of RA 9225. Otherwise, if the child was born after the effectivity of RA 9225, only the child has the right to retain his or her Philippine citizenship, no? Because it's based on the Philippine citizenship of the child's mother. So medyo technical, no? So kasi ang RA 9225 provides either reacquisition or retention. So if the person, the child is born and acquires a nationality, foreign nationality, American, but the child is born after the effectivity of RA 9225 and the mother is proven as a Philippine citizen by a certificate of live birth, the child can retain, no, his or her Philippine citizenship under RA 9225. I hope you understand what I'm explaining. But it's a different thing if there is an express renunciation of Philippine citizenship. So when the mother acquires American nationality, naging American citizen si mother by expressly renouncing or abandoning his Philippine citizenship, it's another thing, no? It's another scenario. So that's my initial, no, assessment based on the given facts, no? Assuming that the mother is a Colby and the child was born under the effectivity of either the 73 or 87 Constitution. Because if we apply the 1935, Filipino mother, American father, then the child should be legitimate. The child is American citizen, obviously following the nationality of the American father. And the child has until the age of 21 plus 7 years maximum, so 28 to elect Philippine citizenship. Unless his case falls under the cases I mentioned on Prescott, Malyari, Co versus Itzret, and Mabiling versus Fernandez, na pwedeng informal election and not the formal election under CA number 625.
So it's
Thank
a
you.
case-to-case basis, no? Depende sa documents and facts, sabi ni Sir
Yes,
na
the facts,
present.
the documents are really very material for us lawyers before we give our legal opinion or assessment. We have to check on the documents.
So thank you very
Thank-
much, Sir Melvin. In the interest of time, we have to close this open forum. And as I mentioned, questions which were not accommodated will be consolidated by the Secretariat. Answers will be uploaded to the PSA website after the convention. So makukumpleto pa rin po ang inyong mga questions and answers relative to the topics presented. So at this point in time, we have to thank our panelists here, and thank you so much for those who have raised their inquiries. Salamat at magandang hapon po muli.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to our resource persons and to our moderator.
All right, so at this point, we would like to recognize and extend our gratitude to our resource persons through a small awarding ceremony. So for this awarding ceremony, may we request the presence of our executive committee led by OIC, DNS, Minerva, and Loisa PSANet to give the awards, the tokens and certificates, as well as OIC, DNS, Clemente S. Manaog. And to join them is Assistant National Statistician Marisa B. Grande of the CRS.
So Nicole, before we award the plaque of appreciation to our resource persons, we have a plaque of appreciation to be awarded to Director Rachel Biven from ESCAP.
To our resource person, OIC DNS Clemente S. Manaog. So technically, DNS will be awarding himself. So I guess the tokens will be handed in the plaque by OIC DNS Minet and ANS Maries. A round of applause, please, for OIC DNS Clemente Manaog. Thank you very much, OIC DNS. You may remain on stage to proceed awarding the rest of our plaques and tokens.
Same plaque of appreciation and token is awarded to Miss Lovely De Castro Mills, City Civil Registrar of Alaminos City, Pangasinan. Thank you very much, Miss Lovely De Castro Mills.
All right, the same token and plaque of appreciation will also be given to Attorney Eliezer P. Ambatali, Director 3 of the Legal Service of the Philippine Statistics Authority. Let us give him a big round of applause. All right, thank you very much, Director Butch, for your expertise earlier.
Next, same plaque of appreciation and token is awarded to Attorney Peter Irish R. De Leon, Attorney 4, Legal Service of the Philippine Statistics Authority. Thank you very much, Attorney Peter Irish R. De Leon.
The same token and plaque of appreciation will also be awarded to Attorney Melvin C. Suarez, State Counsel, Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit, Department of Justice. Let us give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. All right, thank you very much, Attorney Melvin, and to our awardees for that short ceremony. So I'm pretty sure that all of us here learned a lot from your presentations and the open forum that followed.
Before we proceed to the next part of our program, let's watch a short video clip from the presentation earlier of attorney Melvin C. Suarez. Let's watch this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to present our next presenter. Her academic journey is a testament to her dedication and excellence. She graduated as class salutatorian in elementary, class valedictorian in high school, and cum laude in college.
She has completed the executive course on National Security Administration from the National Defense College under the Department of National Defense and the Leadership and Management Development Course Certification Program from the Civil Service Institute of the Civil Service Commission.
With over 2 decades of experience in public service, she has held several key positions. She began as the Sangguniang Kabataan Federation President and an ex-officio member of the then municipality of San Juan. She later served as Chief of Staff of the former Vice Mayor and as a Director at the Legislative Bureau of the Office of Senator Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada at the Senate of the Philippines.
Currently, she serves as Deputy Executive Director 5 for services at the National Authority for Child Care, or NAC, where she passionately advocates for the welfare of vulnerable Filipino children, ensuring they find loving and permanent families. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assistant Secretary Rowena M. Macalintal, the NAC's 2023 Hero of the Year.
Mapagaragang hapon po sa inyong lahat, to USEC MAPA, other USECs and fellow ASECs, colleagues from the Philippine Statistics Authority, the local civil registrars from across the country, from the Philippine Association of Civil Registrars, and the Samahan ng Talaang Sibil ng Pilipinas. Palakpakan naman natin ang ating mga sarili. And our partner agencies, the DOA, the DOJ, the DFA, officials from different embassies and consulate offices, all other officials from other government agencies. In the implementation of child rights and civil registration, I stand here today not just on behalf of the National Authority for Child Care, but on behalf of every child whose name, identity, and dignity depend on our collective diligence. Today, we speak of foundlings, children who have been abandoned or deserted, whose beginnings may be unknown, but whose rights are undeniable. Next slide, please. But before I proceed, allow me to briefly introduce to you our agency, the National Authority for Child Care, or NACC, headed by Undersecretary Janela Ejercito Estrada. And I am here today with our Chief of the Domestic Adoption Division, our amazing Rosalie Preclaro, and our newly promoted Sue 3, Ma'am Eliza Ponce. Next slide, please. The NECC is created by virtue of RA 11642, otherwise known as the Domestic Administrative Adoption and Alternative Child Care Act of 2022. We are a one-stop quasi-judicial agency attached to the DSWD and mandated to exercise all powers and functions in relation to adoption and alternative child care, such as the declaration of a child as legally available for adoption, for permanent placement through domestic adoption or through inter-country adoption, and also for temporary interim placement through foster care, kinship care, family-like care, and residential care through simple, streamlined, expeditious, and inexpensive services in pursuit of the best interest of the child. Before, when adoption was judicial, it takes 3, 5, 7, 9 years for our courts to issue the decree of adoption. But under the domestic administrative adoption, the process from the filing of the petition with complete documentary requirements at our regional alternative child care offices up to the issuance of the order of adoption takes a period of 9 months, making the process expeditious compared to before, and petitioners no longer need the services of lawyers, only that of licensed social workers, thereby making the process even simpler. And petitioners do not pay anything to the RACOS, to our regional offices, or to the NACC. Kapag po kayo mag-aampon, wala po kayong babayaran. Ang babayaran nyo lang po ay ang requirements at kung kayo po ay kukuha ng serbisyo ng Child Placing Agency to assist you in your home study report, social case study report, and application as prospective adoptive parents. Next slide, please. So before inter-country adoption was done by ICAB, well, the function of alternative child care was done by the DSWD, and the function of domestic adoption was jointly done initially by the DSWD, and the last part was done by our 171 family courts. With the enactment of the law, lahat po siya inilagak na po sa NACC as the sole central authority in adoption and alternative child care. Next slide, please. So the NACC is represented all throughout the country by our 16 regional alternative child care offices. So when the judicial adoption shifted to administrative adoption, it created the NACC. And this is our third and last year of transition because the law was enacted in 2022. And we are on our second year of implementation of the law since the transfer of the function of alternative child care was transferred to the NACC in 2023 by the DSWD. And so far, we have issued a total of 1,255 CDCLAA, and 226 are foundlings. And we have issued a total of 1,193 orders of adoption, and 87 are for foundlings. We have entrusted 378 children in inter-country adoption, and 16 of them are foundlings. Overall, we have contributed to the integration of almost 1,639 families worldwide in our 2 years of existence. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our LCR and PSA families for doing your amazing work in providing the new Colby for all these children. On behalf of the NACC and the 5,809 children served by the NACC, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Palakpakan naman po natin ang ating mga sarili. Next slide, please. Our other mandates, apart from the implementation of Republic Act 11642, also includes the implementation of the Foundling Recognition and Protection Act of 2022, which I will delve on later. Simulated Birth Rectification Act of 2019, Foster Care Act of 2012, Inter-Country Adoption Act of 1995. We also do accreditation of our partner foreign adoption agencies in 19 partner countries in ICA. Petition for rescission of adoption and restoration of parental authority, the certificate of recognition of adoption and alternative child care services of all our child caring agencies, and the accreditation of adoption and alternative child care social workers, and of course, the fight against illegal adoption and child trafficking. Next slide, please. So the NECC is composed of the Secretariat and the Council, headed by the SWD Secretary, and their function is to be the policy-making body of the NECC, and as an in-bank committee, they hear petitions for motions for reconsiderations of orders of denial of orders of adoption. Next slide, please. So now we proceed with the RA 11767, the Foundling Recognition and Protection Act, which affirms the dignity and human rights of every child, recognizing their need for care, protection, and development. It upholds the best interest of children, especially those who are neglected, stateless, abandoned, or of unknown parentage. The state commits to prevent statelessness, ensure that foundlings are recognized as natural-born citizens, and penalize actions harmful to their welfare. All protective services for foundlings are entrusted under the NACC. Next slide, please. So who are foundlings? Foundlings are abandoned children with unknown facts of birth and parentage. So they are infants left in public or private places within the Philippines or within the premises of Philippine embassies or consulates abroad. So these are also foundling children relinquished without identifying information, or those foundlings registered as foundling without benefiting from adoption. And we also have the finder. These are person of legal age who discovered the foundling. If finder is a minor, the parent or legal guardian shall assist in the execution of the finder's affidavit. And for foundlings, where finder can no longer be located, which is most likely, lagi po ito yung case ng mga batang tumatanda na or mga adult foundling natin, hindi na po makita ang finder, the head of the safe haven or the LSWDO can act as finder. Next slide, please. So we also have the safe haven provision and the immunity from penalties provided by the revised penal code and RA 7610 or the Anti-Child Abuse Act. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Yes. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the safe haven. As per the Section 13 of RA 11767 and our IRR. So LSWD are considered among the safe haven, DOH hospitals, accredited facilities, and churches devoted to religious activities held with regularity. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So these are the duties as enshrined in the law: to take care of the infant, act as temporary custodian within 48 hours. Kasi po, ang case management natin sa foundling, if the mother or if there is any information as to the parentage of the child, pinipiga po natin. If the mother will eventually, after counseling, execute the deed of voluntary commitment, na hindi na po siya nagiging foundling, nagiging surrendered na po siya. Yun po sana yung gusto natin, para lesser lang yung mga foundlings natin. But if to no avail, we proceed po with the case management of the child as foundling under the law. Next slide, please. So of course, the law provides for the presumption of natural-born Filipino citizenship of our foundlings, and therefore, they are provided all the rights that is given to all Filipino citizens. Of course, there's non-discrimination, the guarantee that foundlings shall not be discriminated. Next slide, please. So of course, the right to birth registration. And then we've provided the streamlined process to expedite the issuance of the Call B of persons with no known parents. And it also provided the registration of the adult foundling, which is a simplified process without requiring parental data. We only require the affidavit of the finder. If the finder can no longer be found, the safe haven head or the LSWDO can serve as the finder. And then we require the LSWDO case study report of the foundling's background. Next slide, please. And we also provide for administrative adoption, status of legitimacy, and alternative childcare options to ensure the right of a child, whether they are foundling, to a family. So foundling shall be placed to approved prospective adoptive parents and foster parents. And if they are adopted after the issuance of the CDCLAA, they are provided with the benefits of adoption under RA 11642. They become legitimate children of their parents. We establish the affiliation which extends to the adoptive parents, legitimate siblings, and legitimate ascendants and descendants. Kaya tinatawag po namin na Trinity ang effect ng adoption. From the ascendants, sa collateral po niya sa kanyang mga kapatid, hanggang sa descendants po ng kanyang adoptive parents. And of course, it provides parental authority and reciprocal rights of succession. Next slide, please. Of course, there's also the provision for administrative revocation of issued certificate of live birth of persons with no known parents if it can be established that na nandyan na po yung magulang at kiniklaim na ang bata. And also if there is fraud. And foundling are declared to be under the NACC jurisdiction. Kaya po very active ang NACC sa pagpupursue ng mga cases ng ating foundling. And it also provides interagency coordination among all government agencies. Kaya nagpapasalamat po kami sa PSA. Palakpakan po natin ang PSA. Lagi po silang nandyan to provide technical assistance, guidance, and to help the NAECC sa napakarami po naming concerns, including recent concerns on investigation and prosecution of cases on illegal adoption. Kaya maraming salamat po, PSA. Next slide, please. Of course, there's the retroactive coverage of the law for adult foundling and the duties of key agencies na i-discuss po natin in a short while. Next slide, please. Regular and synchronized data collection, preservation and data sharing. Medyo mahina pa po kami dito. Kaya we need to coordinate with the PSA also on this. Confidentiality provisions, penalty provisions, which we will tackle later. Advocacy and information dissemination, and under this law, inaalaw na po yung social media platforms for the biological parent search. Before kasi traditional tri-media lang po. Ngayon, inaalaw na po yung pagpo-post sa ating mga social media platforms para hanapin ang magulang ng ating foundling. Next slide, please. And then, under the guidelines of the NACC, there's immediate case referral to the NACC para po ma-process agad ang bata, whether for, kung for adoption siya, we will proceed with the petition for CDCLAA, and then habang inaantay po natin yung petition for CDCLAA, pwede po natin siyang ilagay na under foster care and be provided with monthly financial subsidy by the NACC. Of course, temporary care and family-based placement. Ang goal po natin, mapaampon natin lahat itong mga foundling. Pero habang pinoproseso ang case nila, pwede na po natin silang ilagay under foster care para makaranas na po ng one-on-one family care mga batang ito. And then of course, the issuance of the CDCLAA. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, balik po. There's also provision for foundlings who have disabilities. We want to ensure that medical intervention is aptly provided to them. And then there's protocols for foundlings abroad. Ito po kailangan namin makipag-coordinate din sa ating DFA at sa ating po mga Philippine Foreign Service posts on how we can operationalize this provision of the law because we also have cases of foundlings abroad. They need to be processed. Kailangan pong mahanap din ang magulang, and if to no avail, maayos po yung kanilang report of birth of persons with no known parent at ma-repatriate po sa Pilipinas kasi mahahanapan po natin sila ng pamilya na kabibilangan nila. Next slide, please. So this, as per the guidelines, these are also the law. Ito po yung mga penal provisions. So it includes refusal to register a foundling's birth, discrimination against foundlings, breach of confidentiality with a penalty of imprisonment. Also, under the Foundling Recognition Act, unauthorized disclosure of foundling information or data breach, also with criminal and administrative liability, non-compliance by local civil registrars, safe haven, LGUs with procedures on birth registration and reporting. And of course, kung papasok po siya under neglect, under the RA 7610, they can also be held liable. At kung papasok pa po at magkakaroon ng element ng illegal adoption, may under RA 11642, it is penalized po at meron din pong kulong. At kung papasok pa po yung elements ng qualified trafficking sa bata, meron din po itong kulong na up to life imprisonment. Next slide, please. Kaya po, masayang-masaya kami when the PSA issued these guidelines in 2024. Actually po, natutuwa po kami kasi naunahan pa po kami ng PSA mag-issue ng guidelines on RA 11767 kasi po nag-focus muna kami sa Republic Act 11642. So under these guidelines, Call B can be issued without waiting for CDCLAA. Kasi as per the previous guidelines po, CDCLAA muna, bago Call B of persons with no known parents. Dito po sa guidelines ito, binaliktad na po. Kailangan po munang ma-register ang birth certificate ng mga bata as a requirement for their petition to be declared legally available for adoption. Foundlings who have reached adulthood may still be registered under the guidelines. Foundlings found abroad may be registered through the consular report of birth and later issued a Call B upon return. It also reflects the mandate under RA 11767, Section 5, that foundlings are presumed natural-born Filipino citizens. And Call B forms allows blank entries in place of parental information, no fabrication or invented names. And LCRs are instructed to replace existing certificates of foundlings with certificates of live birth of persons with no known parent. And it reinforces confidentiality. Bawal po lagyan ng picture ang mga Call B ng ating mga batang foundlings na ina-attach po ninyo mismo sa Call B. That is a breach of confidentiality. So now we proceed with the case management. So kapag po may nakita tayong foundling, kahit saan, in our cases po may foundling nakita sa public CR, sa gitna ng parang, nasa loob ng sako nakasabit sa puno, nasa tabi ng ilog, nasa kahon ng sapatos sa tabi ng basurahan, nasa bayong po, nasa duffel bag, iniiwan sa gate ng kung sino-sino, nakalagay po sa sako at iniiwan po sa tabi ng palengke. Kung kayo po ay makakakita ng foundling na ito, ang protocol po mas gusto po natin, habang ini-inform ninyo ang kapitan, ang local social welfare development office o ang police, diretso na po natin sa public hospital ang bata. Kasi hindi po natin, kung ito po ay infant, 30-day-old below, hindi po natin alam kung ano na po yung mga damages or injury na nasustain ng infant. Baka po meron ng sepsis, meron na pong infection, mas gusto po natin na mailigtas agad ang buhay ng bata and mabigyan sila agad ng karampatang medical treatment. Ang dami-dami pong Filipino families hoping and praying na magkapag-ampon po ng sanggol. Unfortunately po, we have several cases of foundlings, hindi na po umaabot sa ospital, namamatay na po ang mga batang ito. Kaya po ang gusto po sana natin, diretso na po sa ospital, coordinate kay kapitan o kay LSWDO, very important, o sa police para ma-check kung ito ba ay biktima ng kidnapping or abduction or trafficking. And also, malapatan agad ng lunas ang bata. And then of course, the finder to execute affidavit of finder. And for the social worker to report to the RACO or NACC within 48 hours, kahit po text lang, tinatanggap po ng NACC o ng RACO. Ma-inform lang po kami na merong foundling na kailangan po ng interagency efforts para po maligtas ang buhay ng foundling at mabigyan natin ng birth certificate ang bata. After ma-establish na, wala po talaga magulang. Next slide, please. So social worker to prepare a comprehensive and exhaustive report within 15 working days, which will serve as a basis of the NACC report. And for social worker to register the Call B for persons with no known parents, the social worker may be from the LSWDO or from our safe haven providers, child caring agency, residential care facilities, or LGU-managed facilities, and to facilitate placement of the child to a licensed foster family or prospective adoptive parents, and conduct regular monitoring and appropriate intervention. Next slide, please. So upon relinquishment po ng bata, the child haven must ascertain the true identity of the birth parents, report within 24 hours to the RACO or NECC through fastest means available, even through text. Written report po pwede na pong to follow. Execute the affidavit of finder, and NECC is currently harmonizing the template. The social worker to prepare comprehensive report to RACO NECC after conduct of biological parent search and inquiry regarding the parentage or true identity of the child. And of course, i-register po ang COLB for persons with no known parents and facilitate placement of the child to a licensed foster family or PAP foster family. Si finder po pwede rin ho siyang mag-apply as foster parent. Basta po maka-qualify siya at ma-approve po siya as licensed foster parent. Next slide, please. So of course, the conduct of regular monitoring and appropriate interventions, provided that for adult foundlings, no foundling certificate, no exhaustive case study report by the social worker shall be required, but the LSWDO shall issue a case study report on his or her background kasi iba po yung treatment kapag adult foundling. Kung adult foundling na po ito, wala pang birth, nabigyan naman ng certificate of foundling, or kahit wala pang certificate of foundling, wala pang birth certificate, hindi na po natin kailangang maghigpit pa kasi meron naman pong report ang ating mga LSWDO. Next slide, please. So the role of the CCA, CPA, and LGU. Next slide, please. So to submit an initial report to the NACC para po sa coordination ng lahat ng interventions. We'd appreciate na inform din po si Kapitan kasi requirement po ang barangay blatter or certification ni Kapitan. We also ask na mag-coordinate din po sa police kasi requirement din po na ang blatter from or police report para at least malaman po natin kung ang bata ba ay biktima ng krimen. Kung biktima ng abduction, kidnapping, trafficking, maibalik po natin agad sa tamang magulang at hindi naman pala ito foundling. And also, of course, coordinate with the LSWDO for the integration and coordination po ng lahat ng intervention sa bata. And of course, prepare the comprehensive and exhaustive report. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So ito po yung mga areas for collaboration natin. Of course, we want an NACC PSA LCR synchronization trainings that will happen in September po. We've invited first batch of local civil registrars all throughout the Philippines po to attend this synchronization training para wala na pong naliligaw sa lahat ng mga policies and guidelines natin in the implementation and issuance of new COLB in relation to our persons with no known parents and in relation to domestic administrative adoption. Also, NACC and PSA, DFA, Philippine Foreign Service Post Technical Working Group for Case Management of Foundlings Abroad and Repatriation. Kaya po dun sa may table namin, interagency na kami doon. May DFA, may from Embassy, and may from DOJ din. And from LCR. And then of course, information, education, advocacy training to other safe haven providers, especially hospitals, birthing clinics, and churches. Sasabayan na po namin ang provisions ng Simulated Birth Rectification Act. Interagency Committee on Adoption and Alternative Childcare, Foundling Technical Working Group meetings, and of course, for all of us to ensure best protection for foundlings, even those who are no longer infants. Ang foundling po, hindi lang po baby, hindi lang po 30 days old. May adult foundling, may mga batang foundling din po na unfortunately, hindi agad na proseso yung kanilang mga requirements for the registration of COLB and for the petition for CDCLA. Kaya ito po yung tututukan natin. And of course, prioritization of quad media search for biological parents. Kasi po ngayon, nakapila pa sila sa ating mga government radio programs. regular and synchronized data collection, preservation, and data sharing with PSA. We would very much like to know po ilan na po ba ang mga na-register na persons with no known parents. And of course, NACC digitization and interconnectivity with all adoption and alternative childcare programs and services and our stakeholders. So in the future po, lahat po ng LCRs, LSWDO, mga child caring agencies, government and private, magkakaroon po kayo ng login credentials sa NACC website. Tinatawag naming NACC Universe for us to do real-time updating po ng mga cases natin para hindi na po nahihirapan at nadidelay yung transmission ng information. Next slide, please. Kaya po, I encourage you, picturehan niyo po ito. Kung wala pa po kayong contact numbers, Viber numbers, mobile numbers ng aming mga regional alternative childcare offices in your respective regions, they'll be happy to assist you and they'll be happy to answer all your concerns regarding adoption, foster care, and the implementation of the alternative child care. So, kung kayo po ay interesado na mag-ampon ng bata, check out www.nacc.gov.ph for the requirements, process, and timeline. Click on the link to our regional alternative childcare offices kung saan po kayo nakatira. Or i-text po ninyo sila or tawagan po ninyo sila. For the scheduled online adoption forum. For NCR, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon, we have child placing agencies who can assist you. And the list and contact details of the CPAs are also listed in our website. Kung gusto nyo naman pong mag-foster care lang, hindi pa kayo ready sa pag-aampon, as a way of giving back to our society, you can also apply as foster parents to our more than 7,000 children in our 195 facilities needing one-on-one family care. Habang inaayos po natin ang cases nila for reunification sa kanilang biological family, or inaayos po ang petition for CDCLAA, or kanilang intercountry adoption. And the NACC will provide monthly financial subsidy in the amount of 8 to 10,000 pesos for these children under foster care. If you have the heart for it, let's give hope and home for these children who go to bed every night, who celebrates their yearly birthday. Wala pong ibang pinagdarasal, kundi maramdaman ang yakap at pagmamahal ng isang nanay, ng isang tatay, ng isang pamilya na kabibilangan nila, at magbibigay ng pagmamahal sa kanila. So if you have questions or concerns pertaining to adoption and alternative childcare, please save these numbers of our RACO directory. So to sum up, next slide please. Okay. So to sum up, tapos na po, children without parents are not children without rights. They are not invisible. They are not lesser. And they are not hopeless. Under Republic Act 11767, which is a shared mandate among all of us, we have recognized the right of our foundlings to be presumed natural-born Filipino citizens, to be registered, to be protected and cared for with the full force of the state behind them. But rights on paper are not enough. The law lives only when it is implemented faithfully, uniformly, and compassionately. The role of PSA and LCR is more than procedural. It is actually moral. You hold the front lines of identity. Without certificate of live birth, a child is locked out of citizenship, services, schooling, adoption, and belonging. These aren't mere clerical errors. These are barriers to justice. So we appeal to you today to persevere in becoming champions of this law. Help us that foundlings are registered without delay, without discrimination, and without undue burden. Every foundling is a story we can rewrite into one of hope. With NACC leading alternative childcare, we hope to place these children not in institutions, but in families. And we shall match them with the most suitable prospective adoptive parents. Basta mabigyan po sila agad ng birth certificate at ma-petition for CDCLAA. Marami po tayong Filipino families na nagdadasal na magkaroon ng anak na aampunin. Marami po tayong foundlings na tumanda na hindi na po napaampon. At may mga tinutulungan pa po ang NACC na mga adult foundlings na hanggang ngayon ay hirap pa rin po makakuha ng birth certificate. Tulungan po natin silang lahat. Let us be the generation that ensure that no foundling is nameless, stateless, forgotten, and without birth certificate. Together, let's build a registry and a republic that recognizes every child as fully Filipino, fully protected, and fully loved. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang bawat batang Pilipino. Mabuhay po tayo mga proud ampon. Because there is an ampon in each one of us. Mga anak, magulang, pamilya, mga ordinaryo, but when we get to do the amazing work that we all do for the children, we become natatangi. Happy anniversary po sa PSA. Thank you all for your service to the Filipino children. Maraming salamat po.
Ako po si Julian Magleo. Yung Julian Magleo is given name po siya sa institution na pinanggalingan ko. Pati yung birthday ko na April 19, 2001, yun yung time na napulot ako sa kalsada. Yung nag-aasikaso ng nung documents ko that time, kinakausap niya ako, talagang paalala niya sa akin na kung sino yung tunay kong magulang. Isipin mo, alalahanin mo kung sino yung nanay-tatay mo. Napaiyak na lang ako, sabi ko, hindi ko nga po alam kung sino yung nanay-tatay ko.
Ang mga batang natatagpuan at nailalagak sa institusyon, after hindi mahanap ang kanilang mga magulang, sila ay natatag as foundling. Ang foundling ay, ito yung mga tao, infant or adult, or child na hindi alam ang pagkakakilanlan.
Sila nagpaintindi sa akin na mahirap yung case na ganon. Ikinuwento nila sa akin na mahirap yung ganyan kasi hindi mo pa alam yung mga magulang mo tapos di mo pa alam kung saan ka napulot. Yung time na si Ma'am Joy na nag-asikaso ng papers ko, ang pagkakaalam ko, inasikaso niya kasi syempre in-interview, nagsusulat siya. Tapos yung time pala na nung lumabas na ako ng orphan, nung tumakas nga ako, hindi pa pala ayos. Doon ako napaisip, sabi ko, wala. Parang kumbaga, palyado ako. Kasi nga, wala akong dalang papel.
Once they are out of an institution, hindi na sila under the jurisdiction of that institution. Paglabas mo, out ka na. Kasi po ngayon, requirement na talaga ang birth certificate. Required na siya sa lahat ng bagay. So kung wala ka, hindi ka uusad sa buhay.
Pumunta ako sa Mandaluyong sa IBC Church. Tapos doon na nagsimula yung namin ni Mama Isa, yung closure namin na storya. Sabi niya, sige, tutulungan kita.
So I started, pinag-aralan ko ngayon. Pero they gave me a list. Ang unang hinihingi nila is an affidavit from the finder of the child. Meaning, ikaw, natagpuan ka sa Luneta, sino yung unang-unang tao nakadampot sa'yo? But by this time, you're 19 years old.
Kasi meron naman yung mga case study, yung mga social worker naman na nag-handle before ng mga cases natin sa Boys Town, kung saan makikita mo saan sila nakuha, kailan sila nakuha, at sino nakakuha sa kanila. Yun lang naman yung element na dapat na meron, ang affidavit of finder.
How I wish na malinis yung record, no? Sana nakalagay doon na Juan de la Cruz ay siya yung mamamayang nakatagpo kay Dante Castro. So pwede ko pa sigurong hanapin si Juan de la Cruz kung may address si Juan de la Cruz. Pero wala pong ganun eh.
Sobrang hirap na habang nilalakad namin yung papeles namin. Marami kami. Sobra yung pagod, yung sacrifice, yung gutom namin. Tapos nung time na kinausap ko siya, sabi ko, Ma, pagod na ako. Ginanong kay Mama Isa, sabi niya, bakit? Sabi ko, parang di ata kami magkakaroon ng birth certificate. Sabi niya, bakit? Sabi ko, parang wala naman ang po nangyayari. Kasi ang dami pa eh. Pabalik-balik yung papeles ko, ang daming mali eh. Tapos that time na, nandun na kami sa may PSA, sa may main branch talaga. Nag-aantay kami na i-release yung PSA. Tinawag kami isa-isa. Tapos nung nahawakan ko yung papel, sabi ko, totoong tao na ako. Kasi meron eh. Kahit, sabi ko, sulit pala. Yung sabi ko, worth it, Ma. Kasi binidyoan niya pa nga ako na Sabi ko, tao na ako, Ma, meron na akong papel. Sabi niya, oo, be, meron ka na. Lahat kami. Video, yay! Tapos nung na-releasean na kami ng papel, pinapunta kami nung mayor nung Maynila. Tapos nagulat siya na ang dami pala namin. Tapos sabi namin, di lang po kami, marami po kami.
I've got the world on top of me, weighing down so heavily. Gonna fall eventually. There's no defying gravity.
Until now, hoping pa rin ako na kahit malaki na ako. Siyempre kasi, yun nga yung sinasabi nila na hinahanap nila yung aruga na sarili mo talagang nanay-tatay. Nanay-tatay kung nasan man ngayon, eto na si Julian na maganda na yung buhay, magkakaroon na ng sariling pamilya, na hindi ko paparana sa magiging anak namin na kung ano yung naranasan ko.
Thank you very much, ASEC Rowena Maclintal of the National Authority for Childcare. And of course, such a beautiful video for us to be reminded of the impact of the work that we are doing for our countrymen. Now, on to our next part of the program. I would like to introduce to you our next resource speaker. So she is the Registration Officer 4 at the Civil Registration and Administrative Support Division, or CRASD, of the Philippine Statistics Authority, Regional Statistical Services Office, National Capital Region. She brings over 22 years of dedicated government service, including her tenure under the former National Statistics Office, where she developed strong expertise in civil registration systems and administrative support systems.
Prior to her current role, she served as Statistical Specialist 2 at PSA NCR Provincial Statistical Office 5, covering the cities of Las Piñas, Muntinlupa, Parañaque, and Pasay.
She earned her bachelor's degree in information technology from St. Louis University. St. Louis University, Baguio City, and later completed 18 units in education at the National Teachers College, NTC Manila, and she is now a licensed professional teacher.
At present, she assists the regional director in evaluating applications for the Civil Registry System Appointment System, or CRASM, and serves as the regional focal person for civil registration, the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys, and gender and development. Her work reflects a strong commitment to public service, data integrity, and inclusive governance. Ladies and gentlemen, our presenter, Registration Officer for Ms. Minerva Z. Carpio. A round of applause, please.
Yes, hello, good afternoon po sa ating lahat. And naiyak po ba kayo kanina? Medyo naiyak po ko eh. So ngayon, hindi ko kayo paiyakin, pasasayahin ko po kayo. So, good afternoon to everyone. This paper presents a forward-thinking initiative to digitally enhance the solemnizing officer's information system, a vital platform maintained by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Next po. So for the outline of the presentation, I will show the SOIS background, what is SOIS, the legal basis, the current system overview, challenges and gaps, proposed enhancements, benefits and impact, implementation roadmap, conclusion, and ways forward. Next po. So the Solemnizing Officers Information System is PSA's digital platform for managing the registration and certification of solemnizing officers, or SOs. These are individuals legally authorized to officiate marriages. SOs can come from different sectors, like religious organizations, local governments, the judiciary, and indigenous groups. Their authority is formalized through the issuance of a CRASM. This is the Certificate of Registration of Authority to Solemnize Marriage. However, for mayors and members of the judiciary, like the judges and justices, they are authorized by law to solemnize marriage without registering their authority to solemnize marriage before the OCRG, or no need for them to secure CRASM. Currently, the SOIS operates with manual processes. Applications are submitted physically, and workflows rely heavily on paper documents and in-person verification. Because of this, the system faces challenges like delays, limited access, and the lack of automation. These issues affect both the efficiency of PSA staff and the experience of the solemnizing officers. The proposed enhancement aims to address these gaps through a secure, login-based system with automated reminders and analytics tools, which aligns with the PSA's broader digital transformation goals under the CRVS modernization strategy. Next. So the SOIS is the main digital tool maintained by the Office of the Civil Registrar General under the PSA. It houses the official registry of all authorized solemnizing officers across the country. Through the SOIS, the OCRG processes new applications for authority to solemnize marriage, CRASM renewals, and record validations. It also features a public search interface, which is helpful for LCROs, religious groups, and individuals to verify CRASM details. This system is essential in ensuring that marriage solemnization remains legal, trackable, and transparent. Next.
So the legal foundation of the SOIS lies in Article 7 of the Family Code, which governs who can solemnize marriages. In 1988, the authority to register these individuals and issue chrysoms was formally transferred to the Office of the Civil Registrar General. This means the Philippine Statistics Authority, through the SOIS platform, is the sole agency responsible for ensuring only authorized persons conduct marriages, maintaining an official registry that the public and LCROs can access. This legal grounding also justifies why enhancements to SOIS are critical for compliance, monitoring, and service delivery. Next. So the current SOIS is mainly used as a public directory of registered solemnizing officers. It lists the SO's name, the CRASM registry effectivity, region registered, and its jurisdiction. However, most transactions are still manual. For example, SOs must go to the PSA provincial office to submit physical documents, and only RSSO users and some selected provincial statistics users have system login access. PSOs and LCROs rely on the public view, and SOs can't log in at all. There's no online tracking, no application updates, and no built-in expiration alerts. This limits the system's ability to support proactive monitoring or client service. Next. On the positive side, SOIS is publicly accessible nationwide. This means anyone, SOs, LCROs, churches, agencies can verify a CRASM online. It increases transparency and accessibility of data. That's already a strong foundation to build on. However, the current platform is read-only. No logins, no application tracking, and no built-in tools for renewal or revocation. All follow-ups still happen through manual processes at field office, which takes time and resources. Next. So one major issue is the data inconsistency, especially from older records. Some CRASM numbers don't follow the updated format. The system does not track expirations or revocations. This can lead to expired CRASMs being unknowingly used. There's no mechanism for foreign SOs whose CRASM depends on the validity of their ACR I-card that needs special monitoring, which is not yet automated. Access is restricted mostly to RSSO users. This makes processing slower for PSOs, and even LCROs rely on workarounds. The system is also vulnerable to downtime and lacks a mobile-friendly design. Okay, next. So for these proposed enhancements, it is proposed to have giving a login access to SOs so they can manage and monitor their CRASM profile directly. The platform will have a mobile-friendly layout, making it accessible even from a smartphone. Once logged in, SOs will see a dashboard with their CRASM number, validity dates, and status. So we'll also include FAQs, or frequently asked questions and guides, to assist the SOs and staff in navigating the upgraded system. Okay, next. So to protect access, it is proposed for an OTP, or a one-time password, or authenticator-based logins. SOs will receive reminders via SMS or email at 90, 60, or 30 days before their CRASM expires. This helps prevent missed renewals. PSA evaluators will get to a dashboard with a real-time statistics composing of the number of expiring or expired CRASMs, regional breakdowns, and trend analysis. The goal is to give PSA and stakeholders better monitoring and decision-making tools. Okay, next. So this slide outlines the proposed robust sign-up process for solemnizing officers under the enhanced SOI system. So the goal is to secure that only verified, authenticated users are granted access to the system while keeping the experience simple and user-friendly. The process starts with a sign-up link on the SOI's public page, and then if the system fails to match the ID photo with existing records, the officer will be asked to upload 2 additional valid government-issued IDs for secondary validation. If verification succeeds, the system allows the user to set up login credentials. So for every login moving forward, a one-time password will be required for additional security. Next. So we'll have a visual mock-ups. So there will be an SO login page, the SO sign-up page, the privacy disclaimer, a sample SO dashboard, and the PSA analytics dashboard. So these are not final designs, but will help everyone visualize the direction of the enhancement. Next. So this is the proposed SO login screen. This mock-up illustrates the proposed login page for the SOs under the upgraded SOIs. This design keeps in line with the official PSA theme, and users will enter their username and password, then receives a one-time password to verify their identity. This protects access and ensures only certified SOs can manage their records. This login page is the gateway to the personalized dashboard, which contains CRASM status, reminders, and renewal tools. Next. So as I have mentioned a while ago, this outline proposed the robust sign-up process for the SOs, and the goal is to ensure that only verified authenticated users are granted access to the system while keeping the experience simple. And the process starts with the sign-up link on the SOI's public page, where officers will provide essential details such as their full name, date of birth, contact information, and upload a clear photo while holding a valid government-issued ID. If the system fails to match the ID photo with existing record, the officer will be asked to upload 2 additional valid government-issued IDs for secondary validation. If verification succeeds, the systems allow the user to set up login credentials, choosing a username and strong password. They then receive an email or SMS confirmation with instructions to activate their account. So for every login moving forward, an OTP will be required for additional security. And in cases where the verification fails, the system will send an automated email with a rejection notice and clear guidance for retrying or contacting the PSA. This process ensures stronger data protection, promotes user accountability, and strengthens the integrity of the SO database. Okay, next. So to protect user data and clarify the limits of PSA responsibility, the sign-up process includes a privacy disclaimer which promotes informed consent and clarifies user responsibility. Upon clicking the Submit for Verification button, a pop-up screen will appear containing the disclaimer, which informs the user that they are responsible for the security of their login credentials and personal profile. The disclaimer also explicitly states that the PSA shall not be held accountable for any breaches or unauthorized use that occur as a result of the solemnizing officer voluntarily sharing their account information, including passwords or CRASM number, with third parties. The pop-up includes 2 buttons. First is yes, I understand, please continue to proceed, and no, I don't want to continue to cancel the submission. This feature promotes informed consent and ensures alignment with the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Okay, next. So for the proposed SO dashboard or for the SO profile, it presents the within the enhanced SOIS platform. Once logged in, the SO will see a personalized profile panel displaying their photograph on the left alongside with their essential registry information. This includes their full name, CRASM registry number, registry effectivity, religious sect, local church assignment, region, and their jurisdiction. A key feature is the status indicator where the system will display one of the 4 CRASM statuses. So one is the active, which is, it means that the registration is valid, expired if the CRASM has lapsed, extended, these are for foreign SOs with a valid ACR I-card, and revoked if their authority is canceled. A remark section may display additional compliance notes or flags, which the profile page ensures transparency and helps SO monitor their credentials proactively. It also serves as an auto reminder, which empowers SOs to take action before expiration. Okay, next. So for this slide, it illustrates the application history panel, an essential tool to help solemnizing officers review their past CRASM applications. It also enables the SO to track every submission and result, where the table view will list their registry information, sect affiliation, and registration details alongside remarks that indicate current status. This builds confidence in the system and promotes responsible monitoring of renewals and expirations. Next. So as for the PSA CRASM Analytics Dashboard, this is designed to provide PSA officials with real-time insights into CRASM activity across the country. Next. So in here on the left, we have a regional map showing the distribution of registered solemnizing officers. This helps regional offices see how many CRASMs are active in their jurisdictions. To the right, there's a summary of expiring CRASMs, which helps track renewals and avoid lapses in the registration. And the pie chart below that gives a snapshot of the current status breakdown, how many are active, expired, extended, or revoked. And finally, the line chart at the bottom shows a monthly trend of active CRASMs, which is useful for identifying seasonal patterns or issues. The goal is to give PSA field staff and decision makers actionable data for better planning, compliance, tracking, and service improvement. Okay, next. So with this login and the OTP access, we reduce risk of fraud or unauthorized use. Dashboards and reminders lead to faster processing and fewer missed deadlines. SOs become more engaged, taking ownership of their own CRASM status. PSA can perform real-time monitoring and avoid backlogs or expired records. And the system promotes public trust and enhances PSA's digital credibility. And through dashboard analytics, PSA can identify gaps and shape more responsive policies. Next. So for the implementation roadmap, so for the short term, that is 0 to 6 months, it is to redesign the user interface to be mobile friendly, build and test login modules, pilot the reminder system in selected regions. And for the medium term, that is 6 to 12 months, roll out login access nationwide, launch the PSA Analytics Dashboard, establish protocols for routine monitoring. And for the long term, which is 1 to 2 years, introduce smart, renew, AI tools, and AI suggestions. explore features like in-app messaging or digital signatures, and evaluate system performance with user feedback. Next. So in conclusion, digitally enhancing SOIS is a strategic investment for PSA and our partners. It transforms a manual outdated process into one that is secure, responsive, and transparent. With the right support, we can provide the SOs, the LCROs, and PSA field offices with tools that truly improve civil registration services. And this aligns with our goals under the CRVS decade and PSA's broader modernization agenda. So for the ways forward, next po. We will enable the online registration for the solemnizing officers. This will allow the SOs to register already through the SOIS platform, minimizing the need for in-person filing and reducing delays caused by manual intake. Next is the online payment of CRASM fees through the system. So as part of the proposed enhancement, it is recommended enabling online payment, whether digital or electronic, for CRASM application fees, which this would provide the SOs with the ability to pay through mobile wallets, bank transfers, or other secure methods. The goal is to minimize the physical and presence at the PSA offices, which reduce delays and streamline the payment and the confirmation process, and allow the PSA staff to tabulate CRASM data directly from the system. So this authorizes the users which can generate real-time reports and summaries, improving monitoring, compliance, tracking, and policy planning. And as for the rollout training and user support nationwide, this is to ensure the smooth adoption, and PSA staff and SOs need capacity building through orientations, help guides, and the technical support. And of course, to expand the system integration and analytics-based improvements. The SOIS can eventually link with other PSA systems, while the analytics dashboard can help track performance and guide the future enhancement. So in closing, the digital enhancement of the solemnizing officers' information system is not just a system upgrade, it's a service transformation. At the heart of this initiative is the user, the solemnizing officer. By giving them secure access, personalized dashboards, historical records, and timely notifications, we're not just digitizing a process, we're empowering individuals who play a vital role in our civil registration framework. These user-centered features enable SOs to take greater responsibility of their registry credentials, reduce the likelihood of missed renewals or expired authority, and ultimately contribute to the cleaner, more accountable data for the PSA. So when SOs are confident, informed, and well-supported through technology, we raise the quality and reliability of our marriage registration processes across the country. The impact extends beyond convenience. It's about trust, efficiency, and long-term system integrity. And so, I urge all of us to continue supporting innovations that put users first, because better public service begins with the better user experience. Thank you, and may we continue driving digital transformation, one empowered user at a time. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Ms. Minerva Z. Carpio. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the open forum, allow me to introduce our moderator. Before his appointment as the Regional Director of the Philippine Statistics Authority National Capital Region, he served as the Chief Statistical Specialist at PSA NCR Provincial Statistical Office 3 for 3 years. Along with his promising journey from holding various positions in the PSA, starting as an enumerator, then casual employee, then clerk 2, assistant statistician, until he reached the position of Chief Statistical statistical specialist and as a regional director in 2018. He made notable contributions to the agency, such as leading and taking part in all statistical and administrative operations in the region. He is recognized as the Vice Chair of the Regional Statistics Committee, or RSC, in the National Capital Region.
A determined and dedicated public servant, our moderator continuously strives for a dynamic mechanism that ensures reliable and responsive statistical services in the region. As a leader, he always ensures the best foot forward in achieving sound and strategic decisions for equitable development for all. In stepping up his career development, he initiated and attended various training and workshops conducted at the local and national level. He is also a member of the different national and regional line committees.
In terms of his scholastic records, he has a bachelor degree from the Colegio de San Juan de Letran, and he continued his professional development at the Philippine Christian University and finished a master's in business administration in 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator, Regional Director Pasiano Dizon. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Jordan and Nicole. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Magandang hapon din po naman. Good afternoon po. Yan. So, we need to interact. Parang nakafocus lang tayo lagi sa harapan. So, tingin ka sa kanan mo. Tingin po kayo sa nasa kanan ninyo. Sabihin mo, mapalad ka. Yes, mapalad po tayo sa ating buhay, sa ating hanap buhay, sa ating ikinabubuhay. Tingin ka sa kaliwa mo. Sabihin mo, malapad ka. Totoo po. As public servants, malapad po ang ginagampanan nating tungkulin. Kaya po, alam po ninyo, i-prompt ninyo sa AI nyo, i-google po ninyo, yung pagpalakpak, it lessen stress, it lessen anxiety. Hindi lang po yun. Yung pagpalakpak, nakakapayat. Kaya palakpakan po natin, ASEC, Rowena Macalintal, and Miss Minerva Carpio. Hasa na po? Ayan. Okay na po, okay na. Okay, so of course, ASEC Rowena Macalintal, diniscuss po niya yung advancing founding rights, bridging protection, identity, and permanency. Specifically po, binanggit po niya yung RA 11767, the Founding Recognition and Protection Act. Si Minnie po, si Miss Minerva Carpio, is the digital enhancement of the Solemnizing Officers Information System. Alam po ninyo, binanggit ni Ase kanina na yung word na ampon. Ano po yung sinabi mong statement on that?
Because there is an ampon in each one of us. Tayo po ay we belong to anak, magulang, pamilya, ordinaryo, pero natatangi, mga proud ampon.
Ayan po. I have a secret to reveal. One time, during my college days, pag-uwi ko, sinalubong ako ng mother ko. Sabi sa akin, Nodi, may sasabihin ako sa'yo. Ano po yan, ma? Ikaw ay ampon. Ampogi.
Ang galing.
Okay. Okay, so may we have ampon, ampogi. Do we have questions? Question number 1. Sa kaibigan po natin from Ma'am Joanna Nimenso ng ating Parañaque City Civil Registry Office for Advancing Foundling Rights. Which specific agency is in charge for the rules and regulations for adult foundling? Can LCR impose additional requirements like barangay police report on foundling, 2x2 picture of foundling, etc. on top of the regular requirements such as social case, study of the SWD, certificate of foundling, affidavit of finder. So, pwede daw po ba yan, ASEC, na ano ba yung specific agency na in charge doon sa rules and regulations patungkol po sa adult foundling?
Yeah, so for adult foundlings po, if the adult foundling is securing call B for purposes of adult adoption, they're under NACC jointly with our local government units. As per the implementing rules and regulations, requirement po for the foundling is the report of our LSWDO. Kasi po ang laging iniisip, pagka LSWDO sila yung DSWD. Hindi po, LSWDO are under LGUs. And because they are the frontline service provider of basic social services, so yung case management po ng mga adult foundlings falls under the LSWDO po.
Okay. So pero, cast in stone ba yung requirements mo ng NACC as to adult foundling? Or pwede ba ang LCRO manghingi ng additional requirements? Like for example, barangay police report on foundling, 2x2 picture foundling, para, alam niyo yan, to ensure yung integrity ba?
Yes po. So lahat po ng mga requirements na ito are also required by the NACC through our RACO in the provision of the NACC report. So po pwede pong i-share na lang po namin itong mga additional requirements with the LCRs para hindi na po kayo kailangang humingi uli ng panibagong requirements because these requirements are already required by the NACC in our provision or in our completion and compliance dun po sa NACC report.
Yung po bang adult foundling, if there are clarifications dun po sa flinash natin ng mga RACO, doon po pwedeng magtanong.
Yes po, pwede po kayo mag-coordinate at magtanong dito po sa ating mga regional alternative childcare officers kung meron po kayo mga confusion or any concerns po regarding the implementation of RA 11642, RA 11767, pati po yung Simulated Birth Rectification Act, Foster Care Act, and Intercountry Adoption Act. And i-add on ko lang po, sir, so the LCRs can also require additional documentation for specific cases po ng para po dun sa ating mga relinquishment of foundlings and for the revocation po nung call B. So dito po yung po pwede sila mag-require ng additional documents. But for the application and registration ng ating call B for our foundlings, malinaw naman po yung guidelines ng PSA, ng IRR, naka-harmonize naman po pati yung batas. So doon na lang po tayo mag-request ng mga, yun na lang pong mga requirements na yon ang i-require natin because the processing of adoption and the registration of foundlings are not meant to be adversarial. It's meant to be facilitative po. So hindi na ho kailangan ng exhaustive search. Ang kailangan lang po yung LSWDO report at yung finder's affidavit.
Thank you, ASEC. Before I go to Mini, nakita ko dito yung mga revised penal code. No? Kasi may mga kaso na huli, pero hindi kulong. Di ba? Usong-uso ngayon, nahuli mo yung boyfriend mo, may kasamang iba, huli, pero hindi kulong. Pero dito revised penal code, no? I-clarify ko lang, may nakita ko, 500 pesos lang ba talaga yun? Or baka typographical error, 500,000 pesos yung isa sa slide po natin dito sa revised penal code. I-check natin, ha? Just to be sure. Ayan, so hindi ko na makita. Revised Penal Code, Article 277. Ito po yung abandoning a minor by one having custody. Example given, CCA, LGU. Arresto mayor and fine not exceeding 500 pesos. Lumang loto.
Yes po, because of the old provision, and hindi pa po yan na-amend. Pero the guilty person po can also be held liable under the provisions of RA 7610, yung pong special protection for our children, yung pong Anti-Child Abuse Act. So kung it's also tantamount to neglect, po pwede rin po siyang ma-penalize doon. Ang hindi po natin tinitignan yung amount yung kulong po Maano pa rin, mabigat pa rin yung makukulong ka ng 6 months to 6 years imprisonment.
Yes,
so at least po nandoon na retain yung na yon, yung penal provision na yon. So for cases po ng abandonment, kapag po may mga magulang na nag-abandon ng batang below 7 years old, po pwede po silang makulong under RPC. Kaya po, if they will surrender to our safe haven, meron po silang immunity kung yung batang isusurrender nila ay 30 days old. Ngayon, kung hindi naman po nila, at ngayon, kung ito naman ay above, po pwede po silang mag-execute ng deed of voluntary commitment para hindi rin ho sila makasuhan ng abandonment. So there are provisions po kung ang nanay hindi na ho talaga kayang alagaan ang bata. Halimbawa, ito ay biktima ng incest rape, biktima ng rape, o di kaya hindi alam ng pamilya niya na naanakan siya at hindi niya na kayang alagaan ang bata o ayaw niya ng alagaan ang bata, we have provisions under our Safe Haven Act na isurrender po nila ang mga bata na ito at ma-process po natin para mapaampon po natin sa tamang magulang.
Thank you, ASEC Rowena Macalintal. Ito pong Solemnizing Officer Information System for MINI. Si MINI po ay Registration Officer 4 ng RSSO NCR. In fact, one of the focal persons with regards to CRASAM, Certificate of Registration of Authority to Solemnize Marriage. PSA NCR is processing on the average 2,000 CRASAM per year. So nakita po ninyo kung gaano kadami, no? So, itong CRASAM natin, Solemnizing Information System, hindi pa po siya operational. Actually, ang sabi ni ANS Maris, mag-develop idea para ma-incorporate sa gagawing system ng central office and also with the help of the regional directors para mas maganda. Now, as to this Solemnizing Information System, nag-uusap kami ng mga RDs kanina. Pwede ba natin idagdag dyan, Mini, yung meron siyang... Dito kasi sa SOIS, kung ito pa ay ginagamit ng PSA, ginagamit ng mga solemnizing officers, ang public pwede pong gamit, including the civil registrars, to see kung may valid kasam ba yung nagkasal. Yung solemnizing officer. Kung hindi po kasama dito ang mga mayors, hindi po kasama ang mga judges, dahil hindi na po nila kailangan mag-apply for Certificate of Registration of Authority to Solemnize Marriage dahil naka-embed na po sa kanilang tungkulin ang magkasal. Ito po yung mga pastors, rabbi, reverend, bishop, or heads of the different churches, sect, or religion. Baka pwede natin incorporate yung pwedeng matrack. Kasi nakita natin dito, online, pwede siyang online submission, Mini.
Yes, sir. This is a proposed po sa ating ways forward, yung ating online submission.
And then, sa online, mapaprocess na siya, makikita, but after, okay to, mukhang authentic naman, mukhang complete naman, pasasabit natin yung hard copy for the authenticity of the document. Tama?
Yes, sir. That is right po.
Baka pwede natin incorporate na once masabit na niya yung hard copy, natatrack niya through SOIS yung status ng kanyang application.
Yes, sir. We will include that, sir, sa ating future po.
Oo, parang Lazada lang yan, di ba? Ordered, confirmed. Nasa ano na yun? Nasa ano na siya? Nasa, ano yun? Nasa warehouse for delivery, receive. Tapos, syempre, meron tayo dong, ano yan, yung banang review. Okay. And then also, Mini, one of the suggestion is magkaroon ng checklist. Kasi kung in-upload lang yung mga soft copy ng requirements as to 2021 CRASM, for example, the endorsement from the head or the bishop of the church, may checklist para alam niya, ito na-upload na to.
Yes, sir, that will be included once this prototype will be approved by the management po.
Thank you.
Thank you
So,
po.
ma'am, question po. From CCR to Gigaraw, by the way, hindi po namin nasabi sa inyo, 200 pesos per question po dito, ha? So, the more questions, mas gusto po namin yun. Is the objection of the biological father to the petition for adoption of his child a ground to dismiss the petition on application for adoption? Alam niyo, pinag-uusapan namin kanina to. Sabi ko, nung pinipresent ni Attorney Peter Irish, na yung sa Japan, na nag-divorce yung mag-asawa, nagkaroon ng pangalawang asawa yung babae, inadapt yung anak. Ang question ko, pumayag ba yung tatay? Yung biological father? Kasi hindi naman binanggit sa case. Pero napakaganda ng question din ni ating CCR from Tugigaraw. Yung objection po ba, ma'am?
Yes po. If the subject child po is a marital child, ibig sabihin legally married po yung nanay at tatay, it matters. Kasi po, pinapag-execute po natin ng deed of voluntary commitment ang mga magulang, either jointly or separately. So both the biological mother, legally married to the biological father, hinire-require po natin ang deed of voluntary commitment bago po natin ma-petition ang bata for adoption. Ngayon, kung hindi naman po sila kasal, wala pong bearing ang objection ng biological non-marital father. We can proceed with the petition for declaration basta po nakapag-execute ng deed of voluntary commitment ang nanay after thorough counseling and a certain period of time po para masiguro na the biological mother is not pressured into deciding for the relinquishment po ng kanyang anak.
Lalo na kung minor ang bata.
Of course po.
Yes po. Another question? Paano daw po kung acknowledge yung hindi kasal yung mag-asawa, yung hindi kasal yung nanay at tatay, pero in-acknowledge nung tatay yung bata, therefore sa birth certificate nung bata nakalagay yung name ng father. So may bearing po ba yun?
Kung hindi po siya kasal, wala pong bearing.
Kahit na acknowledge? Or merong admission of paternity?
Kahit na po nakalagay siya sa birth certificate po kasi hindi po siya considered doon sa mga, hindi po siya considered as persons with parental authority over the child.
Thank you, thank you. So, Anonymous, ayaw po magbayad. Advancing founding rights, I have a nephew, son of my first cousin, who is now 15 years old. Me and my husband took care of him since he was just more than a month old. We treated him as our own, and we introduced him to his biological parents when he was about 5 years old. Despite knowing his biological parents, he still stays with us and we are the ones sending him to school and providing the love and care that he needs. Pwede po ba naming illegally adopt kahit na ako po ay 51 years old na?
Okay, so yung case po niya, kung ma-establish po natin na within 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity, yung bata, we can process the case under relative adoption. Mas madali po, mas mabilis yung proseso ng relative adoption. But if the case falls outside 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity, po pwede pa rin pong i-process yung petition for adoption kahit na po 51 years old. Basta po ma-prove po natin through their application that they can take care of the child physically, financially, emotionally, psychologically, po pwede po nilang ampunin yung bata na ito. And sir, gusto ko lang po idagdag. So kasi this falls under independent placement, which is an illicit practice po in adoption. The NACC will be setting a timeline and a cutoff. If you know of constituents na ganito case, ibinigay lang sa kanila yung bata, binigay sa kanila, iniwan na sa kanila. Pwede po kayo makipag-ugnayan na sa inyong mga local social welfare development officers o sa inyong mga child placing agency kasi po ipoprocess pa po ng NACC yan hanggat hindi pa po kami nagsiset ng cut-off at hindi pa po natatapos yung guidelines namin. All in the placement po na prior to RA 11642 are currently being processed. All independent placement after the effectivity of RA 11642, which is in way back 2022, pinoprocess pa rin po ng NACC as long as there is a determination from the local social welfare development officer that the placement will redound to the best interest of the child. Poproseso pa po namin yan until mag-set na po kami ng cut-off, which is within the year. So kung may mga ganyang cases po kayo, pati yung mga simulated ang birth certificate, nilagay yung pangalan niya bilang nanay, hindi naman siya yung totoong nanay. If you qualify under RA 11222, pwede po nating mapakancel yung birth certificate, ma-restore yung original birth certificate, diretso processing po ng petition for adoption ng mga bata na ito. And the amnesty period is until 2029 na lang po. So we're encouraging everyone to avail of the benefits of the law habang effective pa po siya.
Kasi before yung simulated birth certificate, nagkaroon na ng amnesty for 5 years. And then natapos yung 5 years, ngayon meron na siya ulit hanggang 2029. Very nice. Ma'am, wala bang bearing yung age ng mag-aampon?
Wala naman po, as long as per the medical report, kaya naman pong alagaan, wala naman magiging problema. Kasi yung iba naman po nag-aampon ng malaking bata, hindi na kailangan talagang tutukan, wala naman sakit. So, as long as magkaroon po ng determination that they can take care of the child's needs, wala naman po tayong dinidiscriminate.
Okay. So, no more? Speak now or hold your peace forever? Sabi ko nga, di ba, nakakapait ang pagpalakpak. Ladies and gentlemen, ASEC, Rowena Macalintal, and Miss Minerva Carpio.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to our resource persons and to our moderator.
And now, similar to what we did earlier, we will call on some of our PSA Execom to provide our resource speakers their tokens of appreciations and plaques. So may we call on OIC DNS Minerva Eloisa P.S. Kivias on stage, OIC DNS Clemente S. Manaog on stage as well, and last but not the least, Assistant National Statistician Marisa B. Grande.
To receive the plaque and token of appreciation, may we call on Assistant Secretary Rowena M. Macalintal. Thank you very much, ASEC Macalintal. Same plaque and token of appreciation is awarded to Miss Minerva Z. Carpio. Okay, thank you very much, Miss Minerva Z. Carpenter.
Thank you very much as well to our PSA Execom and ANS Marisa Grande for awarding. So with that, thank you very much to our panelists and our moderator for the last part of our session this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, that ends our technical sessions for day one. I'm sure that most of us here learned a lot by listening and actively participating in our discussions for today.
That's right, Nicole. With our day one, we can already say that we're off to a meaningful start of a 3-day convention.
I totally agree, Jordan. We hope that you'll also be actively participating in our discussions tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we officially end the first day of the convention, don't forget to like and follow our Facebook, X, and TikTok accounts at PSA Gov PH and subscribe to our YouTube channel at PSA Gov PH _.
Just a reminder for our second day of the convention, the registration will start at 8 a.m. and the program proper will start again at 9 a.m. So once again, this is Nicole Navea.
And I am Jordan Arnaiz.
Thank you and mabuhay!
Don't wanna think, don't wanna cry. I just wanna keep you out of my mind. Ain't coming back, so I fill every gap. I just wanna keep you out of my mind. It's all a mess now.